Chapter 8:16. An unnamed disciple, no matter which sect it was not considered a real disciple. However, to the Xuanzhen sect, it did not matter if you were an unnamed disciple or a real disciple. As long as you said that you were from the Xuanzhen sect, it would be fine. Could it be that others would specially ask you if you were an unnamed disciple? Was that possible? Then I'll be an unnamed disciple in the Xuanzhen sect, okay? Jiangchen said. Xuanzhen sect, one of the two great array sects of the Nine Heavens Divine Realm, was on par with the array sect. These two sects had a very special status in the Nine Heavens Divine Realm. Even someone as strong as the Light God clan did not dare to easily provoke these two sections. If they were really angered, they would break your sect protecting array in minutes. At that time, you would be in a hurry to cry. The most important thing was that these two sects had a lot of unnamed disciples. There were disciples from other sects who specially came to these two sects to learn array formations. They were just in name, and then returned to their own sections. Over time, the unnamed disciples of these two sects almost spread throughout the entire Nine Heavens Divine Realm. In this way, how many sects in the Nine Heavens Divine Realm dared to make a move on the Xuanzhen sect and the array sect? Similarly, there were a few sects similar to the Xuanzhen sect and the array sect. For example, the alchemy sect specialized in alchemy. There was also the divine weapon sect, the heavenly talisman sect, and so on. These sects had a very special status in the Nine Heavens Divine Realm. Under normal circumstances, no one was willing to provoke them. Little brother, I thought about it. Since you're an unnamed disciple, you might as well be an unnamed disciple of my array sect. The elder of the array sect said. That's not appropriate, right? Jiangchen smiled bitterly. What's not appropriate? Isn't it just an unnamed disciple? It's not like you're a real disciple. The elder of the array sect said. All right, it's decided. After you go out, take the token I gave you and report to the array sect at any time. This? All right, Jiangchen said softly. As soon as he finished speaking, Jiangchen leaped and arrived at the stage with the talisman engraved on it. This time, the group of people were dumbfounded. Even the two elders of the array sect and the Xuanzhen sect were in a mess. What was going on? After breaking the array, he still wanted to decipher the talisman. Little brother, what are you doing? The elder from the array faction asked. Little brother, the path of cultivation is slow. You just need to focus on one thing. Don't waste your time on useless things. The elder of the Xuanzhen sect said. Don't be so flashy. From now on, focus on cultivating formations. Give up on talismans. 1. However, just as he finished speaking, a thunderous sound came from the arena. This time, Jiangchen did not do anything. He directly used the chaos chi to shatter the talisman. Of course, Jiangchen did it very carefully, using several talismans to conceal the chaos energy. Are you kidding me? Big brother. Am I seeing things? At this moment, exclamations sounded again. Jiangchen was very calm. All talismans were trash in front of the primal chaos chi. This was a principle that had never changed since ancient times. As for why this was the case, Jiangchen could not explain it. He only remembered seeing it in an ancient book. Little brother! My heavenly talisman sect also lacks an unnamed disciple. Right at this moment, a middle-aged man rushed over and stuffed a token into Jiangchen's hand. He said directly, We won't make things difficult for you. We're just taking in an unnamed disciple. If you're free, just take the token and come to the Heavenly Talisman sect. This? All right, Jiangchen said with a smile. Anyway, it was an unnamed disciple. So what if there were a few more? Moreover, Jiangchen had just returned to the Nine Heavens Divine World. Before his identity was exposed, it was indeed time to find some backing. Otherwise, when his identity was exposed, his strength was insufficient, and he had no backing. He could only wait for death. He's going to, no way, right? There's no mistake, right? He's going to refine pills? After a few breaths, everyone was stunned. After Jiangchen removed the talisman, he came to the pill refining arena again. But very soon, Jiangchen walked down somewhat awkwardly. It was because he wanted to refine pills, but he was poor. He did not have the materials to refine pills. That everyone, although I'm not an official disciple, I'm still considered half an official disciple, right? Jiangchen looked at the three people and said, I want to refine pills, but I'm a little tight. I don't have the materials. I say, little brother, your attainments in formations and talismans are so high. Why don't you give up on the other things? It's not good to learn too much. It's not good to learn too much. The elder of the Array faction said. I agree. The elder of the Xuanzhen sect nodded. The elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect nodded and said, just learn formations and talismans. There's no need to refine pills or weapons. I just want to try. Jiangchen muttered. I haven't refined pills for a long time. I almost forgot. It's just a try. It's not a big deal. All right then. Take it. The elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect waved his hand and threw some materials to Jiangchen. Then, the elders of the Xuanzhen sect and the Array faction also took out some materials as a gift for Jiangchen to become an in-name disciple. However, when Jiangchen saw the materials that the three of them gave him, he felt uncomfortable. What's this red color? Dragon's gallbladder? What's this green color? Dragon's horn? Then what's this flaming feather? Could it be the true feather of a phoenix? Jiangchen felt a little dizzy. What's the status of these three people in their respective sects? People who can take out these things casually should not be ordinary elders, right? Oh. By the way, here are some other things. Take it as a gift. I don't need it anyway. Let's give it to the kids in the sect. I don't think it's appropriate. The elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect said and gave a few blood-red fruits to Jiangchen. At this moment, Jiangchen rolled his eyes and was speechless. This was because these fruits were blood-red and shaped like hearts. Aren't these F*King bloodline fruits? Jiangchen came here to break the array and unseal the talisman. Why? Wasn't it to get the bloodline fruits as a reward? Now they were giving it to him directly. I think the three of you are right. It's not good to learn without mastering, Jiangchen said seriously. Since he had the bloodline fruits, why did he have to refine pills in front of so many people? After saying that, Jiangchen walked down the arena directly. Well, elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect, do you still have these fruits? I think it's pretty good, and I want to bring some back for my family, Jiangchen asked shamelessly after returning to Nayland Mayer and the others. Well, I still have some. The elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect was also surprised. He did not expect this nominal disciple to be so generous. However, these fruits are similar to the dragon transformation fruit. They are bloodline fruits and each person can only take one in his life. If he takes too many, it will be useless. The elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect said. The bloodline fruits are rare, but they are meaningless to us. You're rich and overbearing. Of course, it doesn't mean anything to you, but for me, it's the key for me to evolve into tiger spirit. Jiangchen thought to himself, but he still took the 30-odd bloodline fruits from the elder of the Heavenly Talisman sect with a smile. Chapter 8:17. The bloodline fruit was the same as the dragon transformation fruit. One person could only consume one in their lifetime. But for Jiangchen, this was not a problem at all. He had the Chaos Chi and the Myriad Transformation Heavenly Lamp, which was enough to refine the bloodline fruit. Ordinary people would lose their effect after consuming one, but Jiangchen believed that he could keep consuming it. This kid is going to be rich. Array faction, Xuanzhen sect, and Heavenly Talisman sect, the three great elders value him at the same time. His future days will be good. Many people were envious. Everyone knew what it meant to be valued by these three great sections. Not to say meteoric success, but also a carefree future. After half an incense stick's time, when no one participated in the literary battle, the old man presiding over this Haotian conference spoke. Since the literary battle is over, then next is the martial battle. As his voice fell, Jiangchen felt that the atmosphere in the square was a little different. Not only did the atmosphere become oppressive, but many people also directly released their auras. This was to showcase themselves and also to intimidate others. For cultivators, strength spoke louder than words. No matter what conference, banquet, competition, the outcome of all was ultimately a competition of strength. I heard that the successor of the Divine Emperor appeared and is very arrogant. I wonder how his strength is. The Son of Heaven of Kunlun Mountain and Shinjulu of Aulai Heavenly Sect are also here. These two are the best of the younger generation. What are these two people? I heard that the Dongfang family produced an overlord body, which is rare throughout history. This time, he will definitely show his elegance at the Haotian conference and suppress all heroes. The surroundings were very noisy. Jiang Chen's expression was calm. He knew that as long as he did his own thing well, it would be fine. And this time, the purpose of coming to the Haotian conference was for the bloodline fruit. Now that he had obtained the bloodline fruit, it did not matter whether he participated in this Haotian conference or not. Do you feel that it's boring? Mu Xingyun suddenly asked. As Jiang Chen's old enemy, he knew Jiang Chen very well. It's boring. Fighting and killing all day long, I don't like it, Jiang Chen said softly. As soon as these words came out, Mu Xingyun's expression immediately became strange. Don't like fighting and killing? If a reincarnated God King like you doesn't like fighting and killing, how did you ascend to the position of God King back then? Beneath the throne of the king, there were only skeletons and corpses. Perhaps there is something you will like, Mu Xingyun said. The final prize of the Vast Heaven Conference is the Vast Heaven Stone. Haotian Stone? Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed, and he was even more shocked. Vast Heaven Stone, Jiang Chen naturally knew about it. It was said that it was a supreme divine stone that originated from the primordial era. That was something that existed before the world was created. It was extremely rare. There was even a rumor in the world that the one who obtained the Vast Heaven Stone would obtain the world. There were even some who said that within the Haotian Stone, there was an ancient scripture cultivation method. Those who cultivated it could reach the heavens and penetrate the earth, to the extent where they could break through layers upon layers of shackles, rush into the heavens above. I remember that the Haotian Stone has always been guarded by the Haotian Divine Gate. Why would they take it out as a prize? Jiang Chen frowned. Jiang Chen was once a divine king and naturally knew a lot about the matters of the Nine Heavens divine realm. The Vast Heaven Stone, there was only one piece in the world. It had always been guarded by the very mysterious Haotian Divine Gate. It was hard for ordinary people to even take a look at it. To the Haotian Divine Gate, the Vast Heaven Stone was the foundation of their establishment. Could this kind of thing be taken out casually? That I don't know. All in all, the people who came to take part in the Vast Heaven Conference this time are all for the Vast Heaven Stone, Mu Xingyun said. When Jiang Chen heard that, he shot a glance at Mu Xingyun and asked, You just entered the Nine Heavens divine realm not long ago. You know quite a lot. Entered a sect. The sect is ordinary, just a little more well-informed, Mu Xingyun said. I don't care about whatever Vast Heaven Stone. I just want to know, who is that overlord body they're talking about? Wakako suddenly opened his mouth. He had been listening to the words around him all along. When he learned that there was someone who possessed the same overlord body as him, his eyes turned red. As the saying goes, a mountain cannot accommodate two tigers. Possessing the same sacred body, it was even the most tyrannical overlord body. When the two met, a world-shaking great battle would definitely erupt. It was also to prove himself. The sun rises in the east, the flowers bloom without withering. Mu Xingyun frowned. Dongfang family's young master Dongfang Wushuang should have just stepped into profound god cultivation. Profound god? Overlord body? Wakako raised his eyebrows, his expression turning serious as he said, Cultivation is about the same. If you meet him, don't make a move. I want to fight with him. Wakako, sometimes it's better to be a little more steady and keep a low profile, Jiang Chen said. Steady? Keep a low profile? Jiang Chen blinked his eyes. These words coming out of Jiang Chen's mouth felt weird. Especially the two words keep a low profile. When had Jiang Chen ever kept a low profile? He always said to keep a low profile, but in the end? Which time wasn't he the center of attention? Due to the large number of people, the first battle will be a free-for-all, the old man in the air said. Everyone knows the rules. Now let's begin. After saying that, the few arenas in the air merged together. The enchantment rose and the array shrouded, turning into a small battlefield. Then, everyone rushed up and entered the battlefield. Each of them occupied an advantageous position. The so-called advantageous position was naturally near the corner. If they stood in the middle, they would definitely become the target of everyone. Isn't our position a little awkward? After a few breaths, Jiang Chen and the others stood in the battlefield, their faces ugly. It was only because they were a little slower that they were squeezed to the center of the battlefield. Looking around, many people were staring at them before the battle started. It was especially the case when those people saw Jiang Chen, a low-level true god, and disdain appeared on their faces. Am I a lower true god, particularly dazzling and eye-catching? Jiang Chen said with a wry smile. Master, regardless of cultivation or appearance, you've always been so dazzling. Nayland Mayer smiled charmingly, and even grabbed Jiang Chen's arm in front of everyone. A lower true god, a charming woman, these two standing together, it was hard not to attract attention. Boss, this seat. I reckon that we'll be beaten down as soon as the battle starts. Xiao Qingyi smiled bitterly and said, Does this count as the first round of the vast heaven conference? What are you thinking about? With me around, we can at least survive this free-for-all, Jiang Chen said seriously. Don't worry, there's no problem. Just as Jiang Chen finished saying these words, an explosion came from not far away. Clearly, someone made a move. And this explosion was like a fuse. In an instant, the entire battlefield exploded. Everyone made a move. Regardless of whether there was enmity or not, they hit whoever they saw. And Jiang Chen and the others were in the center position, so they were naturally attacked from all directions. However, Jiang Chen and the others did not make a move. They stood quietly in place, each with a smile on their faces as if they were looking at the wind and clouds with a smile. As expected of boss, long prepared, Jiang Lu exclaimed. Looking at the formation patterns and talismans circulating around him, his heart felt much more at ease. Chapter 8:18. Jiang Chen was prepared. The moment he stepped into the battlefield, he secretly condensed runes and talismans to set up the array. However, although the array was strong, it couldn't block everyone's attacks. Moreover, the array required an endless amount of energy to support it. Jiang Chen had crippled his cultivation technique, and even the stars in his body were gone. As such, it was difficult for him to maintain the operation of the array by himself. Lend me your strength, Jiang Chen said in a low voice. In just a few breaths, the array had received thousands of attacks. The light on the array dimmed and was about to break. At the same time, Jiang Chen's energy was also rapidly depleting. If this continued, the array would be broken. Once the array was broken, they would definitely be beaten to the ground. At this moment, Mu Xingyun and the rest did not hesitate and transferred their energy into Jiang Chen's body. In an instant, Jiang Chen's energy skyrocketed. His body emitted many rays of light, and the array's light shot into the sky. Like a giant furnace, Jiang Chen and his companions were shrouded in it. The runes and talismans floated up and down, blocking all the attacks. This kid has some skills! The Xuanjin sect's elder had been paying attention to Jiang Chen. When he saw the array that Jiang Chen had set up, he praised. The myriad fusion array can melt all attacks. The array is good, but it's a pity that it requires a large amount of energy to maintain. With just a few of them, I'm afraid they won't be able to maintain it for long. The array faction's elder frowned. If it's around, it'll be ugly. The two of you, this isn't a simple myriad fusion array. There are talismans carved on it that can absorb heaven and earth yuan qi to operate the array. The heavenly talisman sect's elder's eyes shone as he explained. In this way, The energy required for the array will be much less, and it can last longer. That may be the case, but… The array faction's elder stared at Jiang Chen with an ugly expression. This was because Jiang Chen had too many people around him. These people were picking on soft persimmons. And Jiang Chen, a lower true divinity, was undoubtedly a soft persimmon in this small battlefield. Therefore, more and more people began to attack Jiang Chen and the others. Of course, if it was before, Jiang Chen's defeat would have been none of their business. But the key point was that Jiang Chen was now their unofficial disciple. Although it wasn't official, it would be a disgrace to them if they lost in one round. Let's just wait and see the results. The elder from the Heavenly Talisman sect spoke in a low voice. He didn't really care about victory or defeat. At this moment, the battle on the battlefield was getting more and more intense. Many people had already been kicked out of the battlefield. However, there were a few areas that seemed very strange. On the eastern side of the battlefield, a young man in a green robe stood there quietly. No one around him dared to make a move against him. Even if it was a small team of 6, each of them extremely strong, they would not dare to make a move against him alone. And this person was the young master of the Dongfang family, Dongfang Wushuang. As the overlord body, his strength was extremely strong. He could suppress all the heroes by himself. His existence was a kind of deterrence. Similarly, on the western side of the battlefield, the Son of Heaven stood proudly. His aura soared into the sky like a dormant dragon. No one dared to make a move against him, not only because of his strength, but also because of the 3 words, Kunlun Mountain. In the north, Qinzhulu from the Aolai Heavenly Sect was the same. He intimidated everyone by himself. These 3 people could be said to be the seated contestants of the Haotian Conference, and the famous powerhouses of the younger generation. In contrast, the western side of the battlefield was somewhat special. He saw young Master Zhu Ming standing there, surrounded by people. He was in high spirits as he stood in the crowd and shouted, "Team 1! Go over there! Fight! Team 2, Team 3, protect me! Team 4, Team 5, Team 6, protect me too!" Facing this situation, even the elder who presided over the Haotian Conference was speechless. Although a team could only have 6 people, the key was that young Master Zhu Ming was rich. He had bribed more than 10 teams in advance, and all of them listened to his command. Now there were more than 100 people around him. There's nothing in this world that can't be done with money. If it can't be done, then it must be because the money is not enough, someone said with a wry smile. It's good to be rich, someone envied. At this moment, Jiang Chen and the others were in trouble. It was because they met Dao Yi and the others. The Dao faction, also known as the Dao faction, had always been a top sect in the divine world of 9 heavens. It was not even weaker than the Light Clan. And the disciples of the Dao faction were all top powerhouses. Now, it was unknown whether it was fate or a sin, but Dao Yi and the others were actually beaten to the vicinity of Jiangqin. As the saying went, when enemies met, their eyes would be especially red. Boy! If you didn't injure old 6, how could our team of 6 be left with only 5 people? And we wouldn't be suppressed by others? Dao Wu said in a deep voice, his eyes shining with a fierce light. Since you were unwilling to join our team, today we will eliminate you first. Dao San raised his eyebrows and rushed toward Jiangchen and the others. In a chaotic battle, there was no distinction between friend and foe. Regardless of whether there were grudges before, in this chaotic battle, 1 less person was equivalent to 1 less opponent. At this moment, Dao Yi took the lead and led his junior brothers and sisters. The 5 of them formed a seal, and a vast power rolled down like a star. Hey, it wasn't my fault in the beginning. Is there a need to target me like this? Jiang Chen's face darkened and said, If I don't join your team, you will eliminate me? This is a battlefield. If you don't die, we won't live. Dao Yi was very direct and said, There is no grudge to speak of. We just want to fight. Okay, then you break this 1,000 fusion array first. Jiang Chen joked. However, even so, Jiang Chen was still very nervous. He knew that the strength of these 5 people was extremely strong. If the 5 of them joined forces, ordinary people would not be able to stop them. The myriad fusion array formation might be able to fend off ordinary people, but it would be very difficult to fend off these 5 disciples from the Tao sect. That was because the people of the Tao faction cultivated the power of the great Tao. All formations and barriers could be broken by them. Hold on, Jiangchen said in a deep voice. His hands were constantly forming seals, and he was setting up the second array. I can't hold on. Jianglu was very simple and honest. He said directly, "What are these people doing? Every move is too ferocious." "That's right, we've used up too much energy. Their attacks are too heavy," Xiao Qingyi said in a deep voice. "It's as if they are targeting this array. We need to continuously input energy to maintain this array. 30 breaths will do." Jiangchen narrowed his eyes. "After 30 breaths, kill them. Kid, you should have left long ago as a lower true god. The Haotian conference is not something you can participate in," Daosi said disdainfully. A rune condensed in his hand, and like a sharp sword, it stabbed into the 1,000 fusion array. Chapter 8:19. A rune turned into a sharp sword with godly light flowing around it as if it was going to split open the sky. At the same time, Dao Yi and the others also formed the same rune. 5 sharp swords fell from the sky and landed on the myriad fusion array with a loud boom. Moreover, attacks were falling from all directions. Like a storm, Jiangchen and his companions were drowned. "This is the 6 gods killing sword of the Taoist faction," someone exclaimed. The 6 gods killing sword was used by 6 people at the same time, and its power was so great that it could kill enemies of a higher realm than itself. However, there were only 5 6 gods killing swords left since Dao Lu was injured by Jiangchen and couldn't participate in the Haotian conference. However, the 5 killing swords were so powerful that they could shatter everything. Myriad shadows! Seeing that the situation wasn't right, Mu Xingyun let out a long roar, and his shadow Dao soul materialized. Shadows filled the sky and rushed out of the array like black mist. The shadows exploded one after another, weakening the power of the 5 killing swords. However, they couldn't stop them, and the 5 killing swords landed on the array. Boom! Boom! With 5 explosions, the array shook violently, and its light flickered as if it was about to be broken. Puff! At the same time, Xiao Qingyi's strength was slightly weaker, and he was directly shaken to the point of bleeding. He spat out a mouthful of blood and looked very miserable. F***CK! I'm bleeding! Xiao Qingyi screamed with a murderous glint in his eyes. He formed a seal with both hands and slammed his palm on the ground. He yelled, "Do you want to see who has more people? 1,000 Ghosts Pilgrimage, attack!" Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, skeletons appeared one after another. Ghost shadows and ghost generals broke through the void and stepped into the small battlefield. Necromancer? This is a profession in the lower realm. After becoming immortals, they still cultivate this kind of thing. Is it useful? Many people sneered. The lower realm was still the lower realm. In their eyes, everything in the lower realm was inferior. However, to their astonishment, these ghost shadows, ghost generals, and even the white bones were very special. Their bodies glowed with divine light and were shrouded in black fog. They were different from the ghosts summoned by ordinary necromancers. They had extremely strong battle prowess and were densely packed together. A few of them were actually injured because they were too careless. "It's just a small trick," a Buddhist cultivator chanted. Buddhist light shone from his body, and the sound of scriptures could be heard. "Cross you!" that person shouted loudly. His sutra turned into a raging flame. Everywhere it passed, all the ghosts were turned into green smoke and dissipated. F***CK! How could there be someone who practices Buddhism? People say that cultivators don't fight. Why did you come to the Haotian conference? Xiao Qingyi was furious. People who practice Buddhism cultivate their bodies and minds, and do not fight with others. Who would have thought that there would be people who practice Buddhism among so many participants? And Buddhists were the nemesis of all ghosts. I really can't hold on any longer. Jianglu's forehead was covered in cold sweat. He had consumed too much of his strength and was almost exhausted. Charge out. Let's fight them. Wakako was very straightforward. Because of his overlord body, he always did things in a straightforward manner. Charge out for what? At this moment, Jiangchen suddenly smiled mockingly and said, I'll send them out. What? What do you mean? The group of people was confused. Send them out? What to do? Buzz! But at this moment, the myriad fusion formation was finally shattered. The six gods' killing sword was too powerful, and everyone had consumed too much energy. In the end, they couldn't hold on. Kid, don't worry. The abbot is watching over here. He won't harm your lives, Dao San said. Then, he swung his sword and charged toward Jiangchen and the others. Goodbye. Jiangchen chuckled. Suddenly, runes appeared around him. In the blink of an eye, the runes formed an array. Moreover, the array kept expanding. In a few seconds, it covered half of the battlefield. This is F*CK. A teleportation array? The two elders of the Xuanzhen sect and the array sect exclaimed. What are you trying to do by setting up a teleportation array? In the battlefield, many people saw the teleportation array. Although they didn't know what Jiangchen was trying to do, many people retreated for safety's sake. As long as you leave the battlefield, you'll lose, right? Jiangchen chuckled. He clasped his hands together and shouted. Dozhuan, displacement. Buzz! As soon as he finished speaking, the array suddenly activated. In an instant, the expressions of those who were enveloped in the array changed drastically. Ripples appeared around them. In the blink of an eye, the group of people disappeared on the spot. When they reappeared, the group of people was dumbfounded. This was because they had been teleported out of the battlefield. As far as the eye could see, the originally crowded battlefield had actually lost more than half of its people at this moment. That works too. Abbot. Isn't he too much? How can he use a teleportation array? Someone was unhappy and shouted at the elder in the air. This? According to the rules, anyone who leaves the battlefield loses. The elder's expression was also very strange. He had hosted several Haotian conferences, but he had never seen anyone use a teleportation array. This was F*King, godly. Dao Yi and the others were the closest to Jiangchen. At this moment, the five of them were all teleported out of the battlefield. Are you feeling better now? Jiangchen looked at Dao Yi and the others outside the battlefield with a smile and said mockingly, Why don't you walk on a good path? Why do you want me to send you off? Kid! This is against the rules. Dao San shouted angrily. You're cheating. Cheating? Ask the abbot if I'm cheating. Could it be that using a formation is also wrong? Jiangchen said with a smile. Then, he looked at the two elders of the Xuanzhen sect and the array sect and asked, Are they looking down on arrays? What's wrong with arrays? Arrays can't be used for fighting? What kind of logic is that? If you're so capable, use arrays too. What's wrong with my unnamed disciples using arrays? You don't agree? The elders of the Xuanzhen sect and the array sect immediately shouted with ugly expressions. Moreover, they even looked towards the elder who was hosting the event, their eyes shining. Their meaning was clear: you have to speak properly. Uphold justice. The old abbot had a strange expression. After thinking carefully, he spread out his hands helplessly and said, There's no rule that says we can't use arrays. Teleportation arrays are also arrays. There's nothing wrong with that. Pfft. At this moment, Dao Yi and the others almost vomited blood. If they did not encounter any accidents, the five of them could easily survive the chaotic battle and enter the next round. But now, they were teleported out. B*TCH. Don't be a B*TCH. You cheated. Those who were teleported out began to curse loudly. Among them, there was no lack of top-notch geniuses. At this moment, their hearts were about to explode. Do you not agree? Wakako stared at the people outside the battlefield and said coldly, If you don't agree, I'll fight you one by one after the Hautian conference. Chapter 820. Wakako was as domineering as ever. Even if his cultivation was not high, he still dared to fight with anyone. In his heart, there was no such thing as not daring. However, Jiang Chun was panicking at the moment. A teleportation array had teleported more than half of the people out. This had undoubtedly offended many people. I can't use the identity of silly girl. Now I can't even use this identity. Jiang Chun sighed. It seemed that he had to change his identity the next time he entered the Void God realm. That's good. With a group of ants gone, it's much quieter, Tianzi whispered and looked at Jiang Chun from time to time. He felt that this person gave him a familiar feeling. Thinking of this, Tianzi smiled at Jiang Chun and said, Fellow cultivator, do we know each other? No. Jiang Chun shook his head and said, We've never met before. Really? Tianzi frowned, but the feeling in his heart was getting stronger. Kid, you have some skills. But you have to know that among the people you send out, some of them are my friends. At this moment, Dongfang Wushuang stepped out and walked slowly toward Jiang Chun. The domineering aura on his body soared into the sky like a rainbow. When he opened and closed his eyes, there seemed to be an emperor sitting cross-legged in his eyes. This person is extremely strong. Jiang Chun was shocked. If you want to fight, your opponent is me. Wakako stared at him. He had already seen through his opponent's identity. Both of them were overlord bodies. When they met, they could sense each other. When Dongfang Wushuang heard this, he was also stunned. When he looked at Wakako carefully, a trace of surprise flashed in his eyes. He suddenly stopped and stared at Wakako. He whispered, Overlord body? Yes. Wakako raised his head and the aura on his body exploded. A purple light floated on his body. He also took a step forward and said, This is my boss. If you want to fight him, you have to fight me first. Interesting. Damn. 2 overlord bodies. Who is strong and who is weak? Their cultivation is about the same. At this moment, everyone was moved. 2 overlord bodies had appeared in the same era and even met each other. Their cultivations were almost the same. This kind of thing was very rare. Of course, Dongfang Wushuang is more powerful. He is the young master of the Dongfang clan. His talent is extraordinary and his combat power is extremely strong. Even the great elder of the Dongfang clan said that Dongfang Wushuang is unparalleled in the world. Someone said, This year's Hautian conference is getting interesting. The confrontation of 2 overlord bodies is very interesting. You guys seem to have missed something. This overlord body called that lower true god boss. Someone said in a deep voice. Could it be that lower true god is very strong? Regardless of whether he is strong or not, his cultivation is still there. He is destined to be trampled on by others. At this moment, Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang were fighting against each other, and no one around them made a move. Although it was a chaotic battle, everyone seemed to be stunned at this moment. The atmosphere in the arena became a little strange. Many people retreated as if they wanted to see the duel between the 2 overlord bodies. However, before the 2 of them could take action, the elder in charge of the Great Heaven Assembly said, There are enough people. The chaotic battle is over. What? Is it over? Exclamations sounded one after another, and some people even widened their eyes. Some people even counted carefully and found that there were less than 100 people on the battlefield. In the first chaotic battle of the martial arts competition, 100 people would be selected. Once the number was reached, the chaotic battle would be over. No one had expected that the fierce chaotic battle would end so early because of Jiang Chen's teleportation array. This guy. I'll kill him sooner or later. Dao San looked terrible. They were disciples of the Taoist faction and should have entered the finals or even become the champion. However, No one had expected that they would be defeated in the first chaotic battle. If they had really been defeated, they would have accepted it. However, the point was that they had not used their full strength. They had been defeated unjustly. This guy, why does he look so familiar? Lu Ying hid well in the crowd, but he was also very sullen. He was also teleported out by Jiang Chen's teleportation array. With his strength, he could at least enter the finals even if he did not become the champion. But now, he was eliminated just like the majority of the people. However, he had been staring at Jiang Chen and felt that this guy was very familiar. Heavenly Eye. At this moment, Lu Ying secretly used a secret technique. A ray of light flickered in his eyes, and an invisible ray of light fell on Jiang Chen's body. Then, Lu Ying's eyes widened and he almost blurted out, F***CK. Idiot! Lu Ying roared in his heart. He was very angry and thought to himself, Are you kidding me? You even messed with your own people? Take a break. Next, we will begin the second chaotic battle, the old host said. As there were still many people, it would waste a lot of time to fight one-on-one. No need. Leave the strongest people behind and start the finals. Dongfang Wushuang said. What's the point of a chaotic battle? If I stand there, how many people will dare to attack me? That's reasonable. Qinzhilu nodded. Don't waste time. We came to participate in the Haotian conference for the Haotian stone. That's right. Why waste time? Those who think they are powerful enough can stay. The others can leave, Tianzi said. As soon as he said that, the old host frowned and seemed to be hesitating. But he also knew very well that no matter how many chaotic battles there would only be a few people who could stand at the end. You guys make your own choice. If you think you are strong enough, stay. Otherwise, leave. The old host thought for a moment, and said. Then, he was silent for a moment. He knew that these people would not leave by themselves. After a few breaths, he added, Life and death battle. As soon as he said that, someone immediately left the battlefield. Who could endure a life and death battle? If they were careless, they would die here. Many people came to see the world and had no intention of winning at all. They also knew that they did not have the strength. Therefore, in just a few breaths, there were only a dozen people left on the battlefield. Not a single member of their team left? It can't be. A life and death battle, this is going to kill. At this moment, everyone's eyes fell on Jiang Chen's group. Jiang Chen's group of 6 did not leave. There are only 23 people left. We can directly enter the finals. The old host nodded and said, Get lost! Suddenly, Dongfang Wushuang shouted angrily at a young man not far away. You want to participate in the finals with this little strength? Are you wasting our time, or do you think your life is too long? The young man who was yelled at froze, but he did not dare to say a word. After a moment of silence, he said softly, Dongfang Wushuang, you are very strong, but you are not invincible. Excessive arrogance will eventually bring you a disaster. Stay if you have the guts. If you meet me, I won't give you the chance to admit defeat. Dongfang Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Do you still dare to stay? Chapter 821. Dongfang Wushuang was very domineering and overbearing. He directly threatened them, fearless of everything. On the other side, Tianzi, Qinzhilu, and the others were the same. Although they didn't speak so harshly, they also implied that some people should leave. Facing these people, many people were indeed afraid. After all, it was a life and death battle. Once they lost, if the other party refused to let them go, they would die. Soon, a few more people left the battlefield. After a dozen breaths, there were only 13 people left. Jiang Chen didn't speak. He stood quietly and looked at the people on the battlefield. Tianzi, Qinzhilu, and young Master Jueming were all old acquaintances. They were all very strong, except for young Master Jueming. Jiang Chen was a little afraid of Dongfang Wushuang, but that was all. If they really fought, he might be able to fight. Jiang Chen even felt that he was more powerful than him. Jiang Chun couldn't see anything about the remaining people. However, when he saw a girl in a corner, Jiang Chun couldn't help but be stunned. "This is little Ni," Jiang Chun whispered. She was the illegitimate daughter of the sect master of the Nine Heavens sect, the Ninth Heaven. He didn't expect that this girl was still here. Beside this girl, there was a young man dressed as a page boy. He stood calmly with his hands behind his back. He was very calm and confident. "I say, why are you still here? I think that except for the mighty body, everyone else can leave." At this moment, Dongfang Wushuang's gaze fell on Jiang Chun and the others. In his eyes, among Jiang Chen's group, only Wakako was strong enough to fight with him. As for the others, forget it. "Then it's as you said?" Jiang Chun said with a smile. Then he nodded to Xiao Qingyi and Nayland Mayer and said, "You two can leave." "Okay." Xiao Qingyi didn't say much. He knew his strength, and he also knew that he hadn't reached the peak of his class yet. He really couldn't compete with these prodigies for the time being. As for Nayland Mayer, she did not have any objections. After all, she was only here to accompany Jiang Chen. The Haotian conference was not important to her. Though, the next moment, under everyone's envy, Nayland Mayer smiled charmingly. Then, while Jiang Chen wasn't paying attention, she kissed him on the cheek. Only then did she delicately walk down the stage. Jiang Chen was stunned. He touched his cheek and pretended to be angry. "How dare you take advantage of me? F***ck. This brat. Such a beautiful woman kissed you, and you still despise her? Take advantage of you. How shameless!" Many people were enraged. That was something they could only envy. Even Tianzi and the others were dumbfounded. Who was taking advantage of who? "Jianglu, fight well in this battle. Take it as a training for yourself." Jiang Chun looked at Jianglu and said seriously, "Every master has to go through the training of blood and fire. They also have to wander between life and death. Boss, don't worry. Although I, Jianglu, am not strong, I won't embarrass you." Jianglu's voice was loud, but he said it seriously. "Ha, you think you're not strong, but you still want to stay? Be careful not to lose your life." Dongfang Wushuang said contemptuously. "If you meet me, you'll be in trouble. It's just a mighty body. So what? Do you think you're so great because you have a saintly body?" Jianglu glared at him and said grumpily, "In this era, who doesn't have a saintly body?" "Oh? It seems that you also have a saintly body?" Dongfang Wushuang was surprised, but he soon calmed down. "Saintly body? Well, let's see whether your saintly body or my mighty body is more powerful today." At this moment, there were not many people left on the battlefield. Jiang Chen, Jianglu, Wakako, Mu Xingyun, Tianzi, Qinzhilu, Dongfang Wushuang, under the Ninth Heaven, and the servant beside him. That? Everyone, I won't get involved. Young Master Zhu Ming smiled awkwardly. He was rich, but as for his strength... Cough, cough. It was slightly embarrassing. Sometimes, many people were wondering how he could inherit the position of Farewell Valley Master in the future with his strength. No one left, right? Then 9 people will compete, the old man in charge said. He waved his hand and motioned everyone to go down and prepare. Jiang Chen stood in place, hesitated for a moment, and then asked weakly, "You can't fight at will in Haotian City, right?" "Of course not. No matter in the village, town, or city, you can't fight," the old man said. Hearing this, Jiang Chen breathed a sigh of relief and slowly walked down the arena. He was a little guilty. Just now, he had sent out so many people. If these people went berserk, they could really tear him apart. "Boy! If I meet you in the future, I'll kill you. Don't you walk out of Haotian City." Many people roared. When they looked at Jiang Chen, their eyes were full of anger. Jiang Chen chuckled and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead. He secretly thought that he had caused trouble again this time. Cough, cough, silly. Suddenly, a black shadow came to Jiang Chen's side and said in an extremely low voice. When Jiang Chen heard that, his expression changed drastically, and he suddenly turned his head. he was shocked. His identity was exposed. But when he saw Luing, his heart could not help but calm down. This was one of them. Lower your voice. If they know, I'll be in trouble, Jiang Chen said in a deep voice. King sent me to the battlefield, Luing said with a black face. You're really something. It's a complete misunderstanding, Jiang Chen explained. There were too many people just now. I didn't see you. All right. Luing waved his hand, then his face turned serious and said, You be careful. I heard that the attendant beside 9 heavens is very strong. His background is very mysterious. So what? Do you think that I'm weak? Jiang Chen said jokingly. Luing naturally knew that Jiang Chen was very strong. But he obtained news that the attendant beside 9 heavens was said to be some supreme powerhouse who failed nirvana. It was precisely because nirvana failed that he turned into a youth and started cultivating anew. The depth of his foundation was unimaginable. Still be careful, Luing said. One more thing. Young Master Zhu Ming might know your identity too. Ah? Jiang Chen was stunned. How did young Master Zhu Ming know? Don't underestimate young Master Zhu Ming. That guy isn't simple. Don't be fooled by his appearance, Luing said in a deep voice. This kind of person is the most terrifying. Furthermore, according to my ultimate shadow sex information, young Master Zhu Ming has dual pupils and can see through all falsehoods. What? Dual pupils? Jiang Chen's face darkened. This time, he was in trouble. Dual pupils was not a holy body, but it was a very strange body type. Those who had dual pupils were like the eyes of the heavens. Not only did they have mysterious divine powers, but they could also see through all falsehoods in the world. Thinking about it, Jiang Chen secretly glanced at young Master Zhu Ming and saw that young Master Zhu Ming was also looking at him. That half-smile gave Jiang Chen goosebumps. Chapter 822. Looking at young Master Zhu Ming's expression, Jiang Chen knew that his identity had been exposed. Luing, go and talk to young Master Zhu Ming. Ask him to keep his mouth shut, Jiang Chen said. Don't worry, he is still quite afraid of me. Luing nodded. However, the next moment, Jiang Chen's hair stood on end. That was because Tianzi was holding a mirror and looking at Jiang Chen. Fellow cultivator, you look quite familiar. Let me see your true appearance. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Tianzi secretly transmitted his voice to Su Kei in a friendly manner. You look quite familiar. If we meet later, I will show you mercy. You! Jiang Chen's face darkened as he covered his face with his hands. After a few breaths, Tianzi's expression froze. He looked at the mirror in his hand in a daze. After a few breaths, his face turned gloomy. He gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. He glared at Jiang Chen with fire in his eyes. Familiar? Fellow cultivator? Show him mercy? F***ck off. Silly girl! Tianzi could not hold it in any longer. He gritted his teeth and growled. Then, he pointed at Jiang Chen and roared. Don't let me see you! I will kill you! What? Silly girl? That name sounds quite familiar. Suddenly, many people realized that Silly Girl was the one who moved away the cavern of light. Thief! It's really you! Jiu Tian's face was filled with murderous intent. She said to the servant beside her, If you meet this kid later, beat him to death. Ha ha ha, I finally found him. Chen Zhulu was also filled with murderous intent. He glared at Jiang Chen and said, Don't let me see you! Everyone, you have misunderstood. I am not that silly girl, Jiang Chen explained. However, his explanation was weak. That was because the mirror in Tianzi's hand was a secret treasure made by the Overgod. Any cultivator who was below the Overgod realm would be exposed. You are dead meat. Silly girl. The Light Tribe will not let you go. There were quite a number of people from the Light Clan here as well. All of them shouted in anger. At the same time, the people from Wantong Bank also came out and said that they wanted to kill Jiangqin. Cough cough. Boss, what did you do? Did you commit a sin? Jianglu asked curiously. What else can he do? He moved the radiance-blessed land away. Mu Xingyan muttered. What a scourge, wherever he goes, he brings disaster. I just want to borrow it, Jiangqin said weakly. At this moment, the old man in charge spoke. There are 9 people left. 1 against 1, the 9 heavens will directly advance to the next round. Why? Jianglu asked foolishly. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but despise Jianglu. Someone even said bluntly, She's a girl, shouldn't she advance directly? This silly boy is really a straight man. I'm going to advance directly. Are you not convinced, you idiot? Jiutian raised her eyebrows and said, I don't accept it. Jianglu was very simple and honest. He didn't lie. Not convinced? When I meet you later, I'll beat the shit out of you, Jiutian shouted. A girl speaking so rudely. She must have not slept yet. Then, the old man in charge spoke again and said, Choose your opponent. I choose silly girl. I want to fight silly girl. Leave this silly girl to me. As soon as the old man's voice fell, Tianzi and the rest hurriedly spoke. When Jiangqin heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched. This group of people really wanted to kill him. If I'm not eliminated, I'll definitely choose him too. This is too infuriating. He actually moved the radiance-blessed land away. This guy is a scourge. Killing him is justice on behalf of heaven. The people of the Radiance tribe and Wantong Bank were furious. They really wanted to see the scene of Jiangqin being killed. That silly girl, since so many people chose you, why don't you choose one yourself? The old man in charge had a strange expression. He also didn't expect Jiangqin to be so popular. Sorry, came late. Can you count me in for this finals? Not waiting for Jiangqin to speak, a youth walked over leisurely. This person was precisely that suspected successor of the Divine Emperor. Previously, no idea why, he actually did not take part in the free-for-all. Now, the free-for-all ended. He only came out, and even bluntly said that he wanted to take part in the finals. This was naturally against the rules. But when the old man in charge saw this youth, his brows furrowed and he said, You're late. Take part again next session. Is that so? This youth raised his brows, very arrogant. He even fished out a token with the word Emperor carved on it and said, Can you give face to my master? At this moment, the entire place fell silent. Everyone was looking at that token, especially those few old men. Their expressions changed drastically, their eyes even giving off a brilliant light. Emperor token! It's really the Divine Emperor's successor! The Formation faction and abstruse true sect's several elders were shocked. They really did not expect that the rumors were true, that the Divine Emperor's successor really came to this session's vast heaven conference. That old man in charge was also endlessly shocked. After careful consideration, he said, The Divine Emperor once made great contributions and is indebted to the world. Today, I'll make an exception and give face to the Divine Emperor. Hey, you make it sound nice. You dare to not give? This youth said contemptuously. If my master comes into being, there won't be a place for you all to speak in this world. Brat, don't be too arrogant. The Divine Emperor is just a legend. Whether he's still alive now is a question. Using the Divine Emperor's name, who knows if you're the Divine Emperor's successor or not? Many young people spoke up, suspecting that this Divine Emperor's successor was fake. But this old man in charge smiled awkwardly and said, What little friend said is right. I dare not give face to the Divine Emperor. The moment these words came out, everyone was moved. This was really the Divine Emperor's successor? Since there's one more person, then there's no free pass. Jiutian also wants to participate, the old man said. You all can choose yourselves. Just as his voice fell, Jiangqin pointed at Jiutian without hesitation and said, I challenge her. This guy. In an instant, everyone was speechless. There were 10 people present, and only one girl was chosen? Was there such a thing as having tender feelings for the fairer sex? And Jiutian's expression was even uglier. She had been beaten up by Jiangchen before and knew that she was no match for Jiangchen. Now, Jiangchen actually chose her. This clearly meant that he still wanted to beat her up. I didn't say I was going to choose you. I don't agree. Jiutian exploded in anger. She puffed up her cheeks and said, If you have the guts, then find my servant to fight. Your servant, I'll do it. Jiang Lu stepped out and stared at the servant beside Jiutian. He said, Do you dare? I don't dare. Unexpectedly, the servant shook his head and said, I only listen to little master. I'll fight whoever he tells me to. I won't accept the challenges of others. Then, the servant looked at Jiangchen and said, I challenge you. Do you dare to accept? Chapter 8:23. Some people wanted to challenge Jiangchen, but Jiangchen also wanted to challenge others. In this way, it was difficult to deal with them. In the end, the old man in charge chose the fairest way, drawing lots. Number 1 against number 10, number 2 against number 9, and so on. So many people want to challenge you. You draw first, the old man said to Jiangchen. Jiangchen didn't have a problem with that. It all depended on fate. With a wave of his hand, Jiangchen drew a lot from the old man's hand. When he opened it, number 9 was written on it. Don't let me draw number 2. I'm going to kill you. Tianzi's eyes flashed fiercely. He rushed up and drew first. He was so angry that he wanted to swallow Jiangchen alive. In the end, he drew number 10. Let me! Qinzhilu also drew, but unfortunately, he drew number 8. Next, Jiang Lu and the others drew lots one by one, but they didn't draw number 2. Until the end, everyone's eyes fell on Jiutian. Because there was only one person left and one lot. And until now, the number 2 lot hadn't come out. This meant that Jiutian didn't have to draw anymore. It was iron number 2. Ha ha ha, it's fate! It's really fate! Jiangchen laughed, raised his eyebrows at Jiutian, and said, Little girl, I'll be merciful later. You! Jiutian glared, but she felt wrong. Why? Why did she feel wronged every time she met this silly guy? But the lot had been drawn. Either she didn't go up the stage and admit defeat, or she would be beaten up by Jiangchen. I'm Jiutian. Even if I'm embarrassed, I can't lose face for Jiutian's sect. Jiutian thought, but she felt wrong. She thought, should she say something nice to Jiangchen later and ask him to be merciful? Hey, let me tell you this. If you go easy on me later or admit defeat, I can let bygones be bygones. Jiutian transmitted his voice over. Little girl, you lack discipline. Jiangchen giggled and said, Don't worry, I won't kill you. Moreover, I'm a person who is especially protective of women. Really? Then let me fight a few more rounds later. Don't let me lose too badly, okay? Jiutian blinked his eyes, looking very pitiful. Jiangchen would not be deceived by Jiutian's appearance. He knew that Jiutian was very ruthless. She was a little witch. Okay. I'll go easy on you later. I'll fight you for 300 rounds so that you won't lose face. Jiangchen agreed readily. Of course, only Jiangchen knew how they were going to fight later. Begin! Number 1 against number 10! At this moment, the old man spoke. After that, the attendant beside Jiutian stepped onto the arena. He had drawn lot number 1. And his opponent was naturally Tianzi, who had drawn lot number 10. I've long heard of Tianzi's name. Today, please enlighten me. The attendant cupped his hands and was very polite. Why bother talking nonsense with you? Tianzi said coldly. He was already in a bad mood because he did not draw lot number 2. Now, he was not in the mood to be pretentious with this attendant. As soon as he finished speaking, Tianzi rushed out like a kunping out of the sea. He turned into a kunping and with a sweep, he actually sent the attendant flying. Instant kill! As expected of Tianzi! He's worthy of Kunlun Mountain and the name Tianzi! The crowd was in an uproar. Even Lu Ying was a little surprised. He knew some things about the attendant. He was very strong. But he did not expect that he would be defeated by Tianzi in one move. Hurry up! After this round, I must face Silly Girl in the next round, Tianzi urged. As soon as he finished speaking, he saw Jiang Chun come onto the arena. He smiled and waved at Jiu Tian, saying, "Come on! You promised! Go easy on her!" Jiu Tian's face was ugly. If it were not for Jiu Tian's face, she would not go up. "Don't worry, a man of his word is worth 9 tripods. If I say I'll let you fight for 300 rounds, then I won't miss a round," Jiang Chun said seriously. Hearing this, beneath the 9 heavens was at ease. He leaped up and landed on the stage like a bird. However, before she could react, Jiang Chun suddenly rushed out. The tiger spirit and dragon veins shook, and the dragon tiger's shadow appeared behind him. His speed was extremely fast, and it was mixed with the power of the dragon tiger. Before Jiu Tian could react, he captured the other party. Moreover, Jiang Chun used a secret technique to seal Jiu Tian's voice and soul. "Little girl, I have some ties with your father. Today, I'll teach you a good lesson on behalf of your father," Jiang Chun said seriously and slapped Jiu Tian to the ground. Then, he raised his palm and slapped Jiu Tian's butt under everyone's shocked gaze. Slap! This slap was extremely loud, and it was so painful that tears came out of Jiu Tian's eyes. She widened her eyes and cried out. However, her voice and soul were sealed. She could not say a word, not even a voice transmission. "You still want to kill me? Hey, I'll teach you a good lesson. You're so young, yet you don't learn good things. You want to kill people all day long. Isn't it good to be a gentle girl? What a headache. Who spoiled you? If it weren't for your young age, you would have been dead by now." Jiang Chun talked endlessly. Every time he said a word, he would slap Jiu Tian's butt a few times. "Kid, don't go too far." The attendant was furious, even more so about to explode. She was the illegitimate daughter of the sect leader of Jiotian sect, the little princess of the entire Jiotian sect. Usually, the loss of a hair would alarm the entire Jiotian sect. Now, she was being suppressed by Jiang Chun on the ground and had her butt slapped. This was simply intolerable. "Little master, just admit defeat," the servant said. When Jiu Tian heard that, she rolled her eyes and tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. She also wanted to admit defeat, but she could not say a word. Her soul was sealed. "I said I'll let you last for 300 rounds, so you must last for 300 rounds. Let's see if you still dare to deal with me in the future." After dozens of breaths, Jiang Chun slapped Jiu Tian's butt 300 times before throwing her out of the arena and unlocking her seal. "I'm going to kill you!" Jiu Tian's face was filled with tears of grievance. She covered her butt with one hand and pointed at Jiang Chun with the other. She was really going to explode from anger this time. She was actually slapped in front of so many people. Even if she was called a little witch, she was still a woman. "Little girl, this is a small lesson for you. If you dare to provoke me again, do you believe that I won't rape you?" Jiang Chun threatened. You dare!" Jiu Tian's face was red, embarrassed and angry. She felt that Jiang Chun was not human. He actually dared to say such words in front of so many people. "You dared to rape her?" Right at this moment, Nayland Mayer stared at Jiang Chun with a charming expression, but a trace of coldness flashed across her eyes. She said, "What? Is it that the few of us didn't serve you well?" Chapter 824. Nayland Mayer looked charming, but there was a hint of jealousy in her words. Jiang Chun trembled when he heard that. He smiled embarrassedly and said, "I'm just scaring her." "Humph!" Nayland Mayer snorted coldly. Then, she suddenly smiled, and her smile was very charming. She waved at Jiang Chun and said softly, "Master, come here. I'll give you a massage." Jiang Chun felt goosebumps all over his body. Looking at Nayland Mayer's expression, He knew it was not a good thing. However, the fight was already over. It was time for Jiangchen to get out of the ring. Boss, stop flirting. The next battle is between Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang. Jiangli looked serious and said, Dongfang Wushuang has a strong murderous intent. Don't worry. Their cultivation is similar, and they both have mighty bodies. Jiangchen whispered, It should be fine. I heard that Dongfang Wushuang is very strong, and he is known as unparalleled in the younger generation. Jiangli said worriedly, If Wakako is defeated, and Dongfang Wushuang kills him, you must have confidence in your brother. Jiangchen patted Jiangli's shoulder and said, If you don't have confidence in him, how can you be his brother? Jianglu opened his mouth but didn't know what to say. He was still worried. At this moment, Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang had already stepped onto the arena. They looked at each other for a while. Then Dongfang Wushuang raised his eyebrows and raised his chin, and said, Dongfang Wushuang of the Dongfang family. Wakako, tyrant, Wakako whispered. When he opened and closed his eyes, there seemed to be a general floating in his eyes. His purple domineering aura rushed to the sky, and when his hair danced, he looked like a mad warrior. Dongfang Wushuang's eyes flashed with a trace of contempt, and he said jokingly, You should know that there will be a gap in strength between cultivators of the same cultivation. Even if you have the same mighty body as me, the gap between us is still huge. It's like a chasm that can't be crossed. When Wakako heard this, his eyelids drooped slightly. He waved his hand and said, Fight! Then let's fight! Dongfang Wushuang's pupils suddenly contracted. He stomped on the ground and rushed out like a human-shaped dragon. Wakako was the same. He was like a primordial bull. As he charged forward, the energy in his body burned like purple flames. Boom! In the next moment, the two of them collided. They didn't use any divine skills. Their fists and palms collided. They were competing with their physical bodies. This is how a battle between overlord bodies is like. Someone exclaimed. There's no need for anything fancy. Every punch hits the flesh. Let's see who can last until the end. Jiangchen also saw this, and his gaze was fixed on Wakako. He could tell that Wakako had become even more powerful after not seeing him for a while. Especially his divine body, there seemed to have been some changes. The blood in his body had turned purple. On the other side, Dongfang Wushuang was very brave and aggressive. He completely gave up defense and attacked with all his strength. Cowering, you call this a mighty body? You call yourself a mighty body? Dongfang Wushuang said contemptuously. Wakako's fist hit his chest, and at the same time, his palm hit Wakako. Cowering? Wakako raised his eyebrows and then shouted. Then let's fight with our lives on the line. There can only be one mighty body in the world. Only one can be a mighty body. Dongfang Wushuang roared and waved his fists even faster. The fist's radiance was like the sun, blooming with golden light. Wakako was fearless. He also gave up defense and kept attacking with his fists and palms. The purple divine light was very eye-catching. Between the two of them, the light collided and the divine light was chaotic. When the fist radiance and the palm print collided, it was like the collision of the bright moon and the sun. The sound of explosions rang out continuously. Golden blood and purple blood splattered all over the stage. In just a dozen breaths, both of them were wounded. Wakako's chest caved in, and purple blood overflowed from his mouth and nose. Dongfang Wushuang was not much better. One of his hands was broken by Wakako and fell to the side powerlessly. Golden blood dripped from his shoulder like gold. Their strength is about the same. About the same. I think it's a draw. The people present were not ordinary people. After watching for a while, they knew that Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang were about the same strength. If they continued to fight like this, it would be a draw sooner or later. Even the elder who presided over the Great Heaven Conference shook his head and said, Let's stop. It's a draw. Both of you will advance. A draw? Which eye of yours saw it? Dongfang Wushuang said coldly. I haven't fallen, and he's still here. In the end, one of us will fall! Wakako shouted and punched out. The fist's radiance was like a giant rock, hitting Dongfang Wushuang's face directly. Dongfang Wushuang still did not defend and let the fist hit him. At the same time, his palm burst out and imprinted on Wakako's chest. Puff! At this moment, the two of them flew out at the same time. Blood spilled along the way, and fragments of their internal organs sprayed out from their mouths. At the same time, their auras were much weaker, and even the strength in their bodies was almost exhausted. Even though they didn't use any godly techniques in their battle, their fists still hit the flesh. Every punch and every palm used their full strength. Ordinary people could not resist such a battle at all, nor could they hold on for long. I am Dongfang Wushuang, unparalleled in the world! Humph! In 3 breaths, the two of them struggled to get up from the ground almost at the same time. They were covered in blood, but they did not retreat. Their speed was much slower, and their auras were much weaker. There was not much energy left in their bodies. However, they did not stop. Under everyone's gaze, the two of them fought again. After a dozen breaths, the two of them finally could not hold on any longer. The strength in their bodies was exhausted, and at this moment, they were entangled with each other like street rascals. There was no more strength in their bodies, and the two of them were fighting head-on. Just as they had said, one of them had to fall. Even if they exhausted the divine power in their bodies, even if their hands and bones were broken, they had to fight to the end. If they continue fighting like this, they will become disabled. Jianglu was shocked. He did not want to see anything happen to Wakako. Around them, there were continuous exclamations. Some people were puzzled and wondered who Wakako was. He could compete with Dongfang Wushuang, and they were evenly matched. Some people were shocked. Wakako, such an expert, actually called Jiangchen boss. Then, how strong was Jiangchen, a lower true god? Bang! Bang! After half an hour, the two of them had been fighting for a long time. At this moment, the two of them fell. Their divine power was exhausted, and they had no strength. More than half of the bones in their bodies were broken, and their bodies were badly mutilated. The ground was covered in blood. Purple and gold mixed together, and it looked very gorgeous. Boy, I, Dongfang Wushuang, admit that you are very strong. You will suffer with me. Dongfang Wushuang lay on the ground powerlessly, and it was difficult for him to even move a finger. However, at this moment, Wakako's eyes lit up, and he said, I will not suffer with anyone. I am not weaker than you. Chapter 825. Purple blood flowed and covered the surroundings. It dyed his clothes and purple hair. Wakako's expression was painful. His body was trembling, his 5 fingers were bending, and his spine was twisting. The next moment, he turned over and face down. His waist arched and his palms pressed on the ground. Then, his body slowly propped itself up. Not only was there blood dripping from his forehead, but there was also cold sweat. After a full 10 breaths of time, Wakako stood up with difficulty. At this moment, his entire body was trembling. Blood dripped from his wounds like raindrops. However, there was a trace of dominance in his eyes. He stared at Dongfang Wushuang and said in an extremely weak voice, I won! Hearing this, Dongfang Wushuang lay on the ground with a mysterious smile on his face. He looked at Wakako and asked, Did you really win? It's difficult to even move a step now, right? At least the person standing here now is me. Wakako raised his eyebrows. As he spoke, he spat out a lot more blood. Their injuries were too severe. In the previous battle, they had completely given up on defense, and were only using their fists to strike flesh. And now, although Wakako could not even move a step, as he said, at least he was still standing. Standing meant that he had won. I, Dongfang Wushuang, am unparalleled in the world. However, what surprised everyone was that Dongfang Wushuang also turned over like Wakako. He used one arm to support himself on the ground and then slowly stood up. The moment he stood up, he swayed and almost fell again. However, he managed to stabilize himself. Just like this, the two stared at each other. Their bodies emitted a domineering aura. Deep in their eyes, there was an arrogance and domineering aura that ordinary people could not understand. As overlord bodies, neither of them wanted to lose. "It's a draw," the hosting elder said. "Both of them can no longer fight. This battle is a draw. Let's advance together." "Bullshit! A draw? I don't agree." However, Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang spoke almost at the same time. They did not accept a draw. Between the two overlords, only one person could stand. In the next moment, under everyone's shocked gazes, Wakako took a small step forward. Many of his wounds instantly ruptured, and even cracks appeared on his bones. There were even bone fragments that splashed out from his body. He didn't want it to end like this, and he didn't want to draw either. Dongfang Wushuang smiled. His face was covered with blood, and his smile looked ferocious. Just like Wakako, he took a few deep breaths on the spot before lifting his feet and slowly walking towards Wakako. They were exhausted and heavily injured, but none of them were willing to give up. As long as there was still a breath left, they would have to fight it out. "Wakako! Stop hitting him! It's a draw!" Jianglu shouted, his eyes red. He had never seen Wakako like this. This was undoubtedly a desperate fight. "Let him go," Jiangchen said softly. "This is his pride and his conviction. But if this goes on, he may die," Jiangli said worriedly. His injuries were too serious, and his divine power was exhausted. If he didn't heal quickly, Wakako's life would really be in danger. "Only when you fight it out," Jiangchen said. At this moment, the entire place was silent. Everyone's eyes fell on Wakako and Dongfang Wushuang. The two of them were 10 meters apart, but it took them half an hour to walk to each other. In the end, Wakako clenched his fist and patted Dongfang Wushuang's body weakly. Similarly, Dongfang Wushuang raised his palm, but it was powerless. A punch and a palm hit each other at the same time. Usually, such a weak attack was even worse than scratching an itch. But now, under the punch and palm, their bodies trembled violently. Their injuries were unimaginably serious. With a light touch, they had reached their limits. Bang! Bang! After a few breaths, Dongfang Wushuang laughed bitterly. He couldn't hold on any more and fell on his back. At the same time, Wakako also sighed and slowly fell to the ground. "It's still a draw. This should be a draw, right?" Many people exclaimed, but most of them admired him. To be able to fight to this extent, it was not life and death, but it was comparable to life and death. For glory, for the belief in his heart. "I lost." At this moment, Dongfang Wushuang said weakly with a bitter smile. "I fell to the ground before you. Yes, I won." Wakako was not modest at all. He had won. The moment he fell to the ground, Dongfang Wushuang touched the ground first. It was a slight victory, but it was still a victory. "In that case, Wakako won," the hosting elder said. Then, someone rushed to the arena and carried Dongfang Wushuang. He was in a hurry to heal his injuries. Jiangchen also rushed to the arena immediately. After carrying Wakako down, he used his divine power to heal him and even used the immortal fire. "It's not a big deal. You'll recover after resting for a while," Jiangchen said softly. Wakako was lying on the ground. The blood on his face had not dried yet. He looked at Jiangchen and grinned. "Boss, I didn't embarrass you, right? As long as you're happy." Jiangchen smiled. "Just stick to your heart." "Yes." Wakako nodded and then fainted. Around them, many people were looking at Wakako, especially the elders of some sections. They all knew that Dongfang Wushuang was the young master of the Dongfang clan. He definitely could not be accepted as a disciple. But what about Wakako? "Little brother, does this brother of yours have a master?" Finally, an elder in a black robe walked over and gave a healing elixir. "I'm an elder of the Martial Pavilion. I belong to the Martial Gods faction. If your brother doesn't have a sect, you can come to the Martial Pavilion." "Martial Pavilion? The Martial Gods faction?" Jiangchen frowned. He thought that the world was really small. He actually met the martial gods faction here. Back then, the martial god was among the group of overgods that surrounded and killed Jiangchen. Moreover, the martial god was the main force at that time. Now, would Jiangchen agree to let Wakako join the martial pavilion and join the martial gods faction? Even if Jiangchen agreed, Wakako would not. He knew some things about Jiangchen and those overgods. Sorry, my brother already has a sect, Jiangchen said. Oh? Which sect? If the sect he's in is not good enough, he can change. The martial pavilion doesn't mind, the elder of the martial gods faction said. It's hard to say. Jiangchen smiled. Senior, you also know that people in the void god realm use fake identities. No one will easily announce their sect. Little friend, you're right. The old man nodded. He took out a token and gave it to Jiangchen. He said, when your brother wakes up, let him decide for himself. If he wants to come to the martial arts pavilion, he can come here anytime with this token. Okay. Jiangchen nodded. However, Jiangchen sneered in his heart. When Wakako went to the martial pavilion, he would probably bring a group of people to destroy the martial pavilion and kill the martial god. Chapter 826. After a dozen breaths of time, another person went up the stage. This time, it was a duel between Mu Xingyun and Qinjulu. Who is this guy? If he encounters Qinjulu, he will probably be defeated in a few rounds. He's just a nobody. How can he be Qinjulu's opponent? Mocking and disdainful voices could be heard all around. This was because they only knew Qinjulu and knew that Qinjulu was very strong, but not Mu Xingyun. Similarly, even Jiangchen did not know how strong Mu Xingyun was. As my old enemy, don't let me down, Jiangchen said softly. However, to everyone's surprise, Mu Xingyun went up the stage and said with a smile, I admit that I'm no match for you. I admit defeat. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard this. You should at least make a move. Aren't you afraid of losing face by admitting defeat? Jiangchen was the only one who was calm. He had known that Mu Xingyun would act like this. Jiangchen knew that Mu Xingyun was very patient. He would never do something that he was not confident in. Perhaps Mu Xingyun could defeat Qinjulu if he fought to the death. However, that was not Mu Xingyun's style. If he made a move, he would have 100% chance of winning. You're really steady. At this moment, Jiangchen looked at Mu Xingyun, who had returned to his side, and said, You don't care about your face? What's the use of my face? Mu Xingyun smiled and said indifferently, If I care about my face, I would have lost my life a long time ago. I hate you. Jiangchen seemed to be teasing her. He said, You're too steady. You're too good at enduring things. Sometimes I'm also thinking that I might really die in your hands one day. Don't worry. If that day really comes, I'll give you a quick death. Mu Xingyun joked. Boss, it's my turn. At this moment, Jianglu whispered and then walked up to the arena. His opponent was none other than the God Emperor's successor who had arrived last. Be careful, Jiangchen warned. There's something wrong with this guy. Okay. Jianglu's expression was serious. After all, no matter who it was, they would not be relaxed when facing the God Emperor's successor. Jianglu stood on the stage. The God Emperor's successor had also arrived. Get off the stage yourself. The God Emperor's successor raised his eyebrows and said in disdain, You all know my identity, and you don't have to doubt my strength. You are not my match. How would you know if you haven't fought yet? Jianglu was simple and honest. Since he was already in the ring, he had to fight. Otherwise, why would he come on the stage? To show his face? Heh, you don't know the difference between life and death. The God Emperor's successor laughed disdainfully. Then, he suddenly disappeared. Boom! In the next moment, when he reappeared, an explosion rang out. His palms slammed down on Jianglu's body. So fast! The power of this palm! I'm afraid no one in the same realm can block it. The crowd exclaimed. Although they had not personally experienced the power of that palm, they could still feel it. However, to their surprise, Jianglu stood on the same spot, not moving at all. Jiang Chen was even puzzled. Looking at the palm on his body, he asked involuntarily, "That's it?" "What? It can't be?" He took a palm from the God Emperor's successor and came out unscathed. At this moment, the crowd exclaimed. There were even people who kept rubbing their eyes, doubting their eyes. Even the God Emperor's successor was stunned. He looked at the motionless Jianglu and wondered if there was something wrong with his palm. What God Emperor's successor? If that's all you've got, then I've won this battle. Jianglu was very direct. He would never lie. Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Jianglu punched the God Emperor's successor and sent him flying. Then, he strode forward like a ferocious beast. His body emitted a reddish gold glow. It was as if his entire body was made of gold. That's what ferocious strength. Blood energy surging through the clouds and reddish gold glow. Is that the sacred body of the ancients? Some people knew about Jianglu's body constitution, but they were still not optimistic about his chances. After all, the 4 successors of the God Emperors were no joke. Pfft. Suddenly, Jianglu stopped in his tracks. Blood spurted out of his mouth without warning. He lowered his head in a daze and touched the spot where the God Emperor's successor had hit him. A cold light flashed in his eyes. You're despicable, Jianglu said coldly as he stared at the God Emperor's successor. Don't you know that only the outcome matters? The God Emperor's successor mocked. Get out of here. Then, he struck out with his palm. The palm print was like a cloud and sent Jianglu flying out of the arena. Jiang Chen hurried over to catch Jianglu. He asked, What's wrong? That kid poisoned me, Jianglu said in a low voice. As the sacred body of the ancients, I should be immune to all poisons. But that kid's poison is a little strange. Poisoned? Jiang Chen's eyes narrowed as he quickly checked on Jianglu's condition. After a few breaths, Jiang Chen suppressed the poison in Jianglu's body with the immortal flame. However, he could not eradicate it. This poison. Soul-devouring poison. Jiang Chen's face was as cold as ice. It's a drug prohibition. It was banned 10,000 years ago. Boss, what will happen to me? Jianglu asked worriedly. He also felt that the soul-devouring poison could not be eradicated. I can't cure you. You have to take the antidote, Jiang Chen said. Also, once you're poisoned, not only can you not use the power in your body, but you can't cultivate either. Otherwise, the soul-devouring poison will erupt and devour your soul and body. Ah? So insidious? Jianglu's face fell. On the other side, the God Emperor's successor walked down the arena and came to Jianglu in a mocking manner. Kneel down and say a few nice words. I can cure you of the poison. Dream on, Jianglu said angrily. I won't kneel to you even if I die. Okay, then wait for your death. The God Emperor's successor smiled and shrugged. It's just a cheap life. If you die, then you die. You, very good. Jiang Chen stood up and stared at him. There seemed to be thunder roaring in the depths of his eyes. He stared at the God Emperor's successor. After a few breaths, he said, If he dies, even if you're the God Emperor's successor, you'll have to die with him. You? A lower true god? The God Emperor's successor said contemptuously. If you meet me in the next round, I'll let you have a taste of the soul-devouring poison. I also look forward to meeting you, Jiang Chen said coldly. If we meet, your life and death will be in my hands. Arrogant. The God Emperor's successor raised his eyebrows. Based on your words, I won't give you the antidote. Let your good brother wait for death. You'll give it to me, I'm sure, Jiang Chen said softly and pointed at the gate of Supreme Sky City. Unless you leave this place, you'll definitely give me the antidote. Chapter 827. I'll be waiting. The successor of the God Emperor chuckled and left. Jiang Chen did not pay attention to the next few battles. He tried to use the immortal fire to dispel the poison for Jianglu, but the effect was not great. Jiang Qin even secretly used the 10,000 transformations heavenly lamp, burning it with the heart of the lamp, but it could not erase the soul-devouring poison. How can the successor of the God Emperor be so insidious? Mu Xingyun frowned and said, Legend has it that the Divine Emperor saved the ninth heaven god world back then. He's considered a great man and has made great contributions. Hundreds of races worship him and 10,000 spirits worship him. The disciples he taught, not to mention strength, should have an upright character. Jiang Qin heard and nodded secretly. From the first time he saw the successor of the God Emperor, Jiang Qin had a feeling that this person was strange. And now, Jiang Qin was even more certain that there was something wrong with this successor of the God Emperor. Lu Ying, the ultimate shadow sect, is well informed. Do you know about the successor of the God Emperor? Jiang Qin asked. Lu Ying shook her head and said, The bloodline of the God Emperor rarely appears, and the information that the ultimate shadow sect has is also very little. I feel that this person is not right. Jiang Qin glanced at the successor of the God Emperor from the corner of his eye. Maybe his identity is right, but the inheritance is not right. Lu Ying guessed. There has been more than one God Emperor in the nine heavens divine world. The inheritance that he inherited may be from another God Emperor. Lu Ying stretched out 3 fingers and said, The one who is most remembered by the world is the Clear Sky God Emperor, the one who made great contributions and saved the nine heavens divine world. As for the other 2, one is said to be a woman. She is very strong but also very mysterious. There are very few records in the ancient books, and no one has heard of her inheritance. And the last one, there are some records in some mountain magazines. It seems to be called the Poison God Emperor. Lu Ying said, Do you think this successor of the God Emperor is the successor of the Poison God Emperor? Throughout history, there were many God Emperor level experts, and the most famous one was the Clear Sky God Emperor. As for the other 2, not much was recorded. Of course, other than these 3, there might be a few other God Emperors, but there were no records of them. At this moment, Lu Ying speculated that the successor of the Divine Emperor who came to participate in the Haotian conference might be the successor of the Divine Poison Emperor. Poison God Emperor? Jiang Qin frowned. He had heard of this God Emperor before. However, this God Emperor had an extremely bad reputation. Back then, when the Poison God Emperor was still alive, he caused public outrage. In the end, he suddenly disappeared, and no one knew where he went. There were rumors that God Emperor Poison was killed by another God Emperor. There were also people who said that the Poison God Emperor was cultivating in seclusion to reach a higher cultivation level. But no matter what, as a God Emperor, there was no need to doubt his strength. And the strength of his successor would not be weak either. It was just that in the battle just now, that Divine Emperor's successor had only used one move. It was impossible to tell his true strength at all. The only thing that people could tell was that this successor of the God Emperor knew how to use poison, and it was very insidious. No matter which God Emperor's successor he is, Jianglu's enmity must be avenged, Jiang Qin said coldly. If he is really the successor of the Divine Poison Emperor, then this guy has to be careful. Lu Ying reminded. People who use poison need to be treated with caution. It doesn't matter. I really want to see how strong the Poison Divine Emperor's poison is, Jiang Qin said. In the next few battles, Jiang Qin did not watch at all. He was helping Jianglu suppress the soul-devouring poison. Until half a day later, the second round began. The people who advanced were Jiang Qin, Wakako, Tianzi, Qinzhilu, and the God Emperor's successor. However, because Wakako was seriously injured, he could not fight for the time being. Therefore, there were only 4 people left in the second round. This time, I will definitely beat you to death. Tianzi glared at Jiang Qin, his heart filled with resentment. Qinzhilu did not speak, but the cold light in his eyes was enough to show how much he hated Jiang Qin. As for the God Emperor's successor, he looked at Jiang Qin with a smile, as if he was mocking him. Let's draw lots, the old man in charge said. 4 lots were placed in front of him. You first. Tianzi stared at Jiang Qin and said, This time, I will definitely fight with you. I will definitely kill you. Oh? Is that so? Jiang Qin chuckled and pointed at the God Emperor's successor. I want to fight with him. Anytime. The God Emperor's successor raised his eyebrows. However, if you meet me, only death will await you. Let's try. Jiang Qin said softly. Then, the drawing of lots began. Jiang Qin drew lot number 2. Then, Chen Zhilu and Tianzi drew lot number 1 and number 4 respectively. F***CK. Unlucky. Both of them can't draw lot number 3? Tianzi was anxious. He looked at lot number 4 in Chen Zhilu's hand with a gloomy face. Chen Zhilu was also speechless. A 1 in 3 chance, but they missed it. Forget it, forget it. The God Emperor's successor will teach you a lesson. Chen Zhilu sighed. He felt very uncomfortable that he couldn't kill Jiang Chen with his own hands. Tianzi was so angry that he gritted his teeth. He even said to the God Emperor's successor, Don't kill him. I want to kill him with my own hands. Okay. The God Emperor's successor smiled. Then I will leave him with 1 breath. Okay. Tianzi said. Listening to the two's tone, it seemed that Jiang Chen was going to lose without a doubt. Of course, in everyone's heart, Jiang Chen was definitely going to lose. After all, the God Emperor's successor was no joke. Moreover, this God Emperor's successor knew how to use poison. The Tao of poison was very profound. What do the two of us say? Do we really want to fight to the death? At this moment, Chen Zhilu and Tianzi were facing each other on the stage. They had a good relationship, and in private, they were like brothers. Now that the two of them were asked to fight, the two of them were naturally unwilling to do so. Then the old rules. Tianzi had a strange expression. He clenched his fist and said, Let's start. Okay. Chen Zhilu nodded and clenched his fist. At this moment, the whole place was in an uproar. The battle between Tianzi and Chen Zhilu attracted everyone's attention. One had to know that these two people were true geniuses. They were even born in noble families, and were the disciples of Kunlun Mountain and Aolai Heavenly Sect. Before the battle started, everyone had already guessed that it would be very exciting. However, in the next moment, the group of people was completely confused. They clenched their fists and attacked at the same time in front of everyone's eyes. Rock, paper, scissors! What the hell? What are they doing? Everyone was dumbfounded. Is this what you meant by the old rules? Rock, paper, scissors. Big brother, this is the Haotian conference, not a game. Cough, cough. Sorry, I won. At this moment, Chen Zhilu was slightly embarrassed. After all, this was the Haotian conference. It was indeed inappropriate for them to use rock, paper, scissors to decide the winner. Fortunately, Chen Zhilu won. He held the Son of Heaven's fist tightly. Chapter 828. Truly an incomparable great battle! Someone's expression was strange as he sighed towards the heavens. Jiang Chen was also dumbfounded. He thought to himself, since when were these two so close? Tianzi and Chen Zhilu are so close. Looks like I'll have to face two monstrous geniuses at the same time. Jiang Chen had a headache. He knew that he would be in big trouble in the future. Ahem. Chen Zhilu wins. The old man couldn't stand it anymore. He coughed a few times and announced the result. Kid! Don't get killed by the God Emperor's successor. He'll suppress you sooner or later. Chen Zhilu and Tianzi walked down from the stage. When they passed by Jiang Chen, they glared at him. Do you feel like a low-level true god is weak? The corners of Jiang Chen's mouth curled up slightly, and he said with a smile, Maybe a miracle will occur. A lower true god can suppress you with one hand. Tianzi scorned. Good luck. The God Emperor's successor is not to be trifled with. It's not that he's not to be trifled with, it's me. Jiang Chen suddenly became serious. What God Emperor's successor? Anyone who offends my brother is a sinner. Then Jiang Chen stood up and walked into the arena slowly, as if he was taking a stroll in the park. The Divine Emperor's disciple was already standing in the arena, and when he saw Jiang Chen stepping into the arena, he couldn't help but speak in mockery. Do you really want to court death? I said that you would personally deliver the antidote, Jiang Chen said coldly. I think your life is more important than the antidote. Oh? So you want to kill me? The God Emperor's successor smiled. Those who kill will always be killed. Do you understand this principle? Then let's try, Jiang Chen said softly. There seemed to be a dragon and tiger roaring in the depths of his eyes. Boom! In the next moment, a loud explosion erupted from Jiang Chen's body. His spine turned into a dragon. His posture was as straight as a pine tree. At his chest, his ribs vibrated, and he could vaguely see an azure tiger floating up and down in his chest, as well as a rose blooming. Stomping hard on the ground, Jiang Chen rushed out, leaving behind afterimages. Everyone could only see the dragon and tiger colliding. This aura. I'm afraid it's not weaker than a lower profound god, right? Someone exclaimed. This is comparable to a super profound god. Boom! At this moment, Jiang Chen rushed to the front of the God Emperor's successor. He gathered all his strength in his right hand and formed a fist imprint. The illusory image of a dragon and tiger appeared, and a rose bloomed on his fist. In the end, you are just a lower true god. The successor of the Divine Emperor sneered. He raised his palm casually and sent a shockwave towards Jiang Chen's punch. Boom! The fist and palm collided. With a loud explosion, the illusory image of the dragon and tiger seemed to be about to materialize. The roar of the dragon and tiger shook the sky. There was even divine light that accompanied the blossoming of the rose. Puff! In the next second, under everyone's shocked gazes, the successor of the Divine Emperor spat out blood on the spot, and his body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. The successor of the Divine Emperor had indeed not used his full strength, but his cultivation was much higher than Jiang Chen's. Logically speaking, he should have been able to suppress Jiang Chen with a casual palm strike. Kid, I was careless. The successor of the Divine Emperor steadied himself, a cold glint in his eyes. Then, he suddenly laughed mockingly and said, How does the soul-devouring poison feel? Soul-devouring poison? Jiang Chen was stunned for a moment. He hurriedly looked inside his body and did not realize that he had been poisoned at all. He looked at the successor with a strange expression and asked, You used the soul-devouring poison just now? You're fine? The successor of the Divine Emperor was also stunned. His poison skills were profound. As long as he came into contact with someone, he had 100 ways to poison them. But now, the soul-devouring poison had clearly been in Jiang Chen's body, but Jiang Chen was completely fine. This was not appropriate, right? You're lying to me, the successor of the Divine Emperor said in a low voice. After being poisoned by the soul-devouring poison, you can't circulate or cultivate. Can't circulate? Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow. His feet suddenly stomped on the ground, and like a flash of lightning, he instantly rushed in front of the successor of the Divine Emperor. His speed was extremely fast, giving the God Emperor's successor no time to react. His fist, carrying the rose, landed on the God Emperor's successor's chest. Kacha! The sound of bones breaking rang out. Everyone was dumbfounded. The successor of the Divine Emperor's chest was penetrated, and a bloody hole appeared. Large amounts of blood spurted out. What's going on? This kid is so strong! A lower true god suppressing the successor of the Divine Emperor. A lower true god and a higher profound god, and even the successor of the Divine Emperor, the difference. Why is it so big? Everyone was moved, unable to believe that Jiang Chen was actually so strong. However, at this moment, Jiang Chen suddenly stopped. A poison was spreading in his body like a black hole, wanting to devour him from the inside. How does the dark deifying powder taste? At this moment, the successor of the Divine Emperor stood up. His mouth was full of blood, but his wound had already healed. To him, this kind of injury was nothing more than a flesh wound. What he really cared about was his face. Being beaten to such a state by a lower true god, where would he put his face? These are all forbidden poisons. You don't care about the world's greatest taboo, Jiangchen said coldly, but his heart was somewhat cold. This was because the dark deifying powder was even more terrifying than the soul-devouring poison. It could instantly devour a person, shatter their divine soul, and scatter their soul. However, after a few breaths, Jiangchen blinked because the dark deifying powder in his body had disappeared. Upon closer inspection, it turned out that the 3 strands of primal chaos energy had destroyed the poison. The primal chaos energy has such an effect. Looks like it can help Jianlu detoxify without the antidote. Jiangchen heaved a sigh of relief. Then, since he didn't need the antidote, this successor of the Divine Emperor, would it be useless? Poisoning my brother, that's the first sin. Using forbidden poisons, that's the second sin, Jiangchen said coldly. Impossible. You're fine. The successor of the Divine Emperor let out a strange cry. He could feel that the dark deifying powder had disappeared from Jiangchen's body. Those who use poison are inferior, Jiangchen said contemptuously. You're finished. Ha. Interesting. However, at this moment, the successor of the Divine Emperor suddenly laughed wildly. He stared at Jiangchen and said mockingly, Forget it. I've played enough. It's time to get serious. What? Jiangchen's eyes narrowed. Something big was about to happen. He hurriedly attacked, his speed as fast as lightning, but he was still a beat too slow. The moment he attacked, 3 strands of light rushed over from outside the arena. They were so fast that they seemed to be shuttling through the river of time. In an instant, the 3 strands of light landed on the successor of the Divine Emperor. At the same time, above the arena, a youth who looked exactly like the successor of the Divine Emperor appeared. That's just my clone, the youth said softly. His expression was extremely cold as he said, Now my real body is here. You can kneel and apologize. Chapter 829. That's just a clone in the arena? Everyone was shocked. They could not imagine how confident the person must be to send a clone to participate in the Haotian convention. At this moment, the main body in the air looked down at Jiangchen. There was a trace of Emperor's will on his body, which made him look insufferably arrogant. He did not come down and continued to stand in the air. He said coldly, You're just an ant. I don't want to fight with you, and you're not qualified to fight with me. If I'm an ant, what are you? Jiangchen stared at the main body and said, Do you not dare to fight with me? You're too petty and lowly. The main body said calmly as if he was talking about something normal. I'm the successor of the Divine Emperor, and you're just a lower true god. You're just an ant. Of course, I'm not targeting you. I'm talking about everyone here. At first, everyone thought that this person was right. The identity of the successor of the Divine Emperor was indeed high. However, when the last sentence came out, the whole place exploded. We're all ants? We're all ants? Speak with your strength. The Emperor said coldly. I don't care who you are. You're too arrogant. I don't like it either, Chenjulu said softly. His eyelids drooped slightly, and a burst of battle intent erupted from his body. If it were not for the fact that his opponent was Jiangchen, Chenjulu would have definitely gone up to fight with him. Boom! Right at this moment, an explosion suddenly resounded in the arena. When the crowd looked over, they saw Jiangchen's fist pressing down on the clone. After the explosion, the clone exploded and turned into smoke, disappearing into nothingness. How dare you kill my clone? The main body in the air looked extremely cold, and the aura on his body fluctuated. That was the clone he created with his blood essence. If his clone was killed, he would also be affected. Of course, this was not the most important thing. The most important thing was his reputation. He was the dignified successor of the God Emperor. He was high and mighty, and his every word and action represented the God Emperor. But now, someone actually dared to kill his clone right in front of him. It seems like our clan has not appeared in the world for a long time, and the world has already forgotten our past glory. This person said softly, staring at Jiangchen, and said, "The face of the God Emperor clan cannot be sullied. Who do you think you are? You're just a cultivator like us." Jiangchen said disdainfully, "You're not the divine emperor, you're just his disciple. If the emperor God doesn't come out, I will represent the emperor God," said the young man. Then, he slowly landed on the arena. He looked at Jiangchen and his expression became calm again. It was impossible to tell whether he was happy, angry, sad, or joyful, nor was it possible to tell what he was thinking. So indifferent to the point of indifference. When he looked at Jiangchen, it was as if he was looking at a blade of grass, an ant, or even a speck of dust. "Kneel." After several breaths of time, the divine emperor's inheritor spoke. He reached out with a palm. Radiance flickered within his palm, as if the sun, moon, and stars were being destroyed. His strength was very strong. The pressure under his palm caused the entire arena to shake. "Kneel? Are you qualified?" Jiangchen said softly. The sound of dragons and tigers roared in his body, and the roses in front of him bloomed. His hands danced, forming fist seals, and then he pushed them out. His left fist was like a true dragon, and the dragon's roar shook the sky. His right fist was like a tiger, and the tiger's roar shook the ground. His entire body emitted divine light, especially his spine and ribs, which seemed to contain a universe. Boom! In the next moment, the fist and palm collided in midair. Amidst the roar of dragons and tigers, Jiangchen's fist light was like a great river, crushing his opponent's palm seal. The divine emperor's inheritor narrowed his eyes. He didn't expect Jiangchen to dare to resist. Then, he nodded and said, "You have some skills. You have this strength as a lower true god. You are qualified to follow me and be my servant. Don't be shameless. Who do you think you are? You want my boss to be your servant?" Jiang Lu couldn't stand it anymore. This divine emperor's inheritor was too pretentious. Even Wakako, who was severely injured, rolled his eyes. He had seen pretentious people, but he had never seen such a pretentious person. "You talk like you have athlete's foot," Jiangchen said coldly. His body shook, and the emperor's vine appeared behind him. A vine that covered the sky, due to the soul-raising demonic technique, seemed to have mutated and was about to become an ancient tree. The branches and leaves were luxuriant, and the vines were like dragons, with purple-gold divine light jumping around. It was as if what hung on the vines were not leaves, but stars. "Oh? Emperor's vine? It is said that only those who have the appearance of an emperor can have the emperor's vine Dao soul," many people exclaimed, and they realized that Jiangchen's emperor's vine was very special. It was about to become an ancient tree. Screech! In the next moment, there was a long screech, and a cluster of flames erupted from Jiangchen's body, shooting up into the sky. In the blink of an eye, the flames descended from the clouds, and a fiery red undying bird landed on the monarch vine's vines. "Twin Dao souls? What a guy! This is rare!" Everyone was shocked. Twin Dao souls, and they were the best of the best. Not until then did the crowd realize that the simple-minded Jiangchen was really strong. "Are these all your trump cards?" However, the successor of the Emperor of Gods was disdainful, and he said mockingly, "I'm afraid it's not enough." Boom! Just then, the runes on his body began to materialize and dashed into the sky. Then, a giant sword appeared. The giant sword was covered with runes, as if scriptures were engraved on it, and the sound of scriptures chanting could be heard. The sword radiance was as dazzling as the sun, and it had locked onto Jiangchen with a powerful aura, and it slowly descended. The successor of the Emperor of Gods? Heh! Jiangchen snorted. Then he started to move in an instant. A pair of wings appeared on his back, and the immortal bird Dao Soul attached to his body. His entire body was burning with inextinguishable flames. The Emperor's vine turned into armor, and a purplish gold light enveloped Jiangchen. Then, Jiangchen rushed up, and without any fancy moves he clenched his fist and rushed toward the giant sword in the sky. In everyone's eyes, a purplish gold light shot into the sky, and then, with a loud explosion, the giant sword in the sky was shattered. In the next moment, before anyone could react, Jiangchen pressed down from the sky like a mountain. His spine was shaking, and his dragon vein was roaring. Jiangchen's ribs seemed to be beating a drum. Many roses appeared behind him. He looked like a comet with a bright tail behind him. You have a lot of tricks up your sleeves, but it's a pity that you only know how to use brute force. The successor of the Emperor of Gods said disdainfully. Let's not talk about divine skills for now. How many Tao skills have you mastered? You only rely on your own strength, and you don't know how to use them. If you don't use divine skills or Tao skills, you can't unleash your full potential. Compared to me, you are far inferior. And you can't imagine how deep and powerful the legacy of the Emperor of Gods is. The successor of the Emperor of Gods stood where he was, as if he was praising himself, and also telling everyone how extraordinary he was. Chapter 830. The Divine Emperor's successor was very conceited. When he saw Jiangchen charging over, he was still spouting nonsense. The crowd couldn't bear to listen anymore. They'd seen pretentious people before, but they'd never seen someone as pretentious as him. Shut up! At this moment, Jiangchen roared angrily. He pressed forward and punched the Divine Emperor's successor with the power of dragons and tigers. If I say you're an ant, then you're an ant. No matter how powerful you are, you're still an ant. There was contempt in the Divine Emperor's successor's eyes as he casually struck out with his palm. Boom! With a loud explosion, the Divine Emperor's successor's expression changed drastically. His palm shattered, and even his waist bent down. He wanted to step back, but Jiangchen's punch was too fierce, and it carried a great momentum. In the next instant, under the crowd's shocked gazes, Jiangchen's punch didn't slow down at all. It crashed down on the Divine Emperor's successor's face. Of course, if this punch had struck down normally, it would definitely have hit the top of the Divine Emperor's successor's head. Everyone present could see that. However, Jiangchen's punch turned around and landed squarely on the Divine Emperor's successor's face, causing his facial features to become crooked. Face slapping! Good! That feels good! Although I want to kill you, your punch really hit me in the heart. Many people were shouting, and some were even clapping for Jiangchen. Let him pretend. He can't pretend to be dead. What Divine Emperor's successor? He's still been slapped in the face by a lesser true god. At this moment, the Divine Emperor's successor's body flashed with holy light, and he moved horizontally. His facial features were instantly reconstructed, but his face was flushed red, and the killing intent in his eyes was almost tangible. Ant! How dare you hurt me? The Divine Emperor's successor shouted angrily. Hurt you? If you continue, I'll kill you! Jiangchen said coldly. As he spoke, Jiangchen moved horizontally in a majestic gait. He didn't use any divine techniques, nor did he use any Tao techniques. Just like that, he charged out, and another fist imprint fell. This time, the God Emperor's successor didn't dare to be careless. Layers of poisonous fog suddenly erupted from his body, and the howls of hundreds of ghosts rang out. Runes revolved around his body. He pointed his finger, and the runes condensed. He shouted, 100 ghosts wave! 1! In an instant, the poisonous fog twisted and turned into malicious spirits that charged out. Jiangchen was engulfed by 100 ghosts, and he could vaguely see the inextinguishable flame burning. Humph! When I get serious, only death awaits you, the Divine Emperor's successor said coldly. He firmly believed that Jiangchen wouldn't be able to come out, and would be killed by the 100 ghosts formed from the poisonous fog. Invulnerable to all techniques and poisons. Suddenly, Jiangchen's voice came from the 100 ghosts' poison fog. 1. Following a series of rumbling sounds, a strand of chaotic qi swept out in a circle like a sword and completely destroyed the poisonous mist around him. What? the Divine Emperor's successor exclaimed. His pupils constricted as he saw a fist with the image of a dragon and tiger coming toward his face. He wanted to dodge, but Jiang Qun was too fast. Bam! In that instant, amidst the chaos, Jiang Qun punched the Divine Emperor's successor in the face again. He's still hitting the face? He's really good. If he hits like that. Isn't he afraid of the Divine Emperor's clan's revenge? Some people were agitated, while others broke out in cold sweat on Jiang Qun's behalf. After all, no matter what, he was still the Divine Emperor's successor. The faction behind him was extremely terrifying. Ordinary people didn't dare to provoke them at all. I'm going to kill you! The Divine Emperor's successor was indeed very strong. He moved out again and reconstructed his facial features. With a furious roar, the entire arena was filled with poisonous fog. It was unknown how many types of forbidden poisons filled the air in the arena. Moreover, the poisonous fog contained runes, talismans, and layers of restrictions. He wanted to trap Jiang Qun and seal him with the poisonous fog. Can't you see it now? Your poison is useless against me, Jiang Qun said softly. A wisp of chaotic aura floated above his head and merged with a rose. To outsiders, it looked like a rose. The rose bloomed with multicolored light, hiding chaotic aura. Wherever it passed, it was like a breeze brushing past. In just a few breaths, the poisonous fog in the arena dissipated. At the same time, Jiang Qun attacked again, landing another punch on the Divine Emperor's successor's body. Pfft! This time, the Divine Emperor's successor spat out blood and trembled all over. Not only was he injured, but he was also furious. 3 consecutive punches, all landing on his face. He had lost all his dignity. This time, Jiang Qun didn't give him a chance to resist. He formed seals with both hands, and array formations and barriers fell together, suppressing the Divine Emperor's successor to the ground with great force. Then, Jiang Qun bent down and whispered into the Divine Emperor's successor's ear. Give me the antidote for the soul-devouring poison, or else, die. Although Jiang Qun's chaotic aura could detoxify the poison, he wasn't sure if it would hurt Jiang Qun. Therefore, the safest way was to get the antidote. Aren't you afraid of the Divine Emperor's clan's revenge? The Divine Emperor's successor said coldly. Poof! As soon as he said that, Jiang Qun's finger pierced through his chest and his other hand pressed against the Divine Emperor's successor's forehead. Are you giving it or not? Jiang Qun was very direct, not afraid of the other party's threat at all. You're in big trouble. Do you know that? The Divine Emperor's successor said in a low voice. The power of my clan is not something you can imagine. I'll ask you one last time. Give me the antidote, or your life. Jiang Qun's eyes gradually turned cold, and the finger that was pressed against the Divine Emperor's successor's forehead had already gathered a sword light. As long as he moved slightly, the Divine Emperor's successor would die without a doubt. You! The Divine Emperor's successor wanted to say something, but he knew that the young man in front of him wouldn't give him another chance. At that moment, he took out a bottle of pills and said, Let me go! What if this antidote is fake? Jiang Qun frowned and threw the pill to Jiang Lu, saying, Take it first. If it's fake, I'll make him pay with his life. Okay. Jiang Lu was very obedient and took a pill. Very soon, the effects were seen. In a few breaths of time, the soul-devouring poison in Jiang Lu's body disappeared. Then, he said to Jiang Qun, Boss, the poison is gone. Jiang Qun nodded softly. Then, he kicked the Divine Emperor's successor out of the arena. What Divine Emperor's successor? With your strength, I'm afraid you can't even beat the Son of Heaven and Qinzhulu. Jiang Qun said disdainfully. Maybe you can't even beat a few of my little brothers. You've gone too far. My clan won't let you go. The Divine Emperor's successor said coldly. His eyes and body were full of killing intent. If you're still here tomorrow, the experts of my clan will definitely come. That will be the time of your death. Hearing this, Jiang Qun chuckled and said, Is that so? How strong are the experts of your clan? Speaking of which, my clan also has experts. Why don't we call them over for a competition? However, when he said this, Jiangchen also felt a little guilty. He didn't know if his senior brothers and sisters could contend against the experts of the Divine Emperor's clan. Chapter 831. Jiangchen's senior brothers and sisters were very strong, but Jiangchen didn't know how strong they were. He had only seen the smiling god fight. He didn't know much about the others. And now, the God Emperor's successor had said that the experts of the God Emperor's clan would come here tomorrow. At that time, if no one helped Jiangchen would be in big trouble. As the God Emperor's successor, you can't afford to lose? You're a disgrace to the God Emperor's clan. Someone secretly mocked the God Emperor's successor. I thought the God Emperor's successor was strong, but he's only SOSO. He was slapped in the face by a lower true god, and he even called his elders over after losing. How embarrassing! Many people hid their identities and spoke bluntly, not giving the God Emperor's successor any face. Using poison is not good enough. Luing mocked. You were high and mighty before, but now you're beaten to the ground. You asked for it. Humph! I won't argue with you, the God Emperor's successor said coldly. He was furious, but he couldn't refute. He didn't leave. He stood there, waiting for the experts of the clan to come. Jianglu, go to a place according to these coordinates. Tell them I'm being bullied, Jiangchen said softly. He asked Jianglu to go to the sky-reaching school to ask for help. Jianglu also knew the seriousness of the matter. He hurriedly got up and left. However, Jiangchen still felt a little guilty. He didn't know how many experts there were in the God Emperor's clan, and he didn't know how strong those so-called experts were. But Jiangchen thought that at most, they should be an over-god, right? After all, the current era was different from the past. The highest cultivation level could only be at the God-king level. Over-gods were already the top. If it's just an over-god, my senior brothers and sisters should be able to handle it, Jiangchen thought. Putting aside the Book of Luo and the red caltrip yarn, the smiling god was strong enough to fight an over-god. Thinking of this, Jiangchen felt more confident. His expression also calmed down. The finals have begun. At this moment, the old man in charge of the competition opened his mouth and gestured for Jiangchen and Qinzhulu to enter the arena. This was the final round. The person who obtained first place could obtain the vast heaven stone. I've finally met you! Qinzhulu was very excited. His eyes flashed with a ferocious killing intent. He, Tianzi, and young Master Zhu Ming had been tricked by Jiangchen. Now, he wished he could swallow Jiangchen alive. Jiangchen, kill him! Tianzi shouted from below. He hated Jiangchen to the bone. We're all old acquaintances. Why do we have to fight each other as soon as we meet? Jiangchen chuckled. Can't we sit down and have a good talk? Talk? Talk your ass! Qinzhulu was furious. He attacked Jiangchen as soon as he saw Jiangchen walk up to the stage. A long staff appeared in his hand. As he waved it, layers of staff shadows shot toward Jiangchen like stone pillars. Jiangchen focused his eyes. He formed a dragon-shaped fist print with his left hand and a tiger-shaped palm print with his right hand. The fist and palm merged together and pushed out horizontally. Roar! It was as if dragons and tigers were roaring. The fist and palm prints shot out and shattered the staff shadows in the sky. However, at this moment, Qinzhulu arrived in front of Jiangchen. The long staff in his hand was shining like a sharp sword. It was aimed at Jiangchen's forehead. F***CK! Are you really going to kill me? Jiangchen shouted and said. After all, we've cultivated together in the Mansion of Light. We're friends. There's no need to kill me, right? How dare you mention the Mansion of Light? Qinzhulu was furious. If it wasn't for the Mansion of Light, he wouldn't be so angry. Back then, he had spent a lot of money to enter the Mansion of Light. However, he didn't cultivate for long before the Mansion of Light was gone. Bang! At this moment, a muffled sound could be heard. Jiangchen's palm moved horizontally. A tiger's shadow appeared and grabbed the long staff. Then, Jiang Chen's arm shook. His divine energy turned into ripples and bombarded Chenjulu's body. Chenjulu! What are you doing? Hit him! Tianzi was anxious. He stared at Jiang Chen and hoped that he could suppress Jiang Chen. There's something strange about this guy. Chenjulu's face turned ugly. The power that Jiang Chen unleashed just now was not any weaker than his. One should know that Jiang Chen was just a lower true god. Who the hell are you? Chenjulu stared at Jiang Chen. He was holding the long stick in front of him. Many illusions appeared around him. Counting carefully, there were a total of 72 phantoms. Moreover, as time went by, the 72 shadows became more and more real. They were just like real people. The secret technique of Aolai Heavenly Sect, the 72 gods. Someone exclaimed. It is said that the 72 gods were comprehended by the founder of Aolai Heavenly Sect. When cultivated to the extreme, it is like an avatar. Every avatar can turn into a real person. I didn't expect Chenjulu to have cultivated the 72 gods. Chenjulu smiled and said, What do you think? Are you scared? Scared? What's there to be scared of? Jiang Chen asked. Buzz. As soon as Jiang Chen finished speaking, he formed a seal with his hands. The undying bird Tao spirit soared into the sky. Then, the Emperor's vine appeared. Its vines covered the sky and the sun and covered the entire arena. The inextinguishable flame covered the vines and blocked all auras. The people outside the arena couldn't see what was going on inside. Chi! At this moment, a sword ray cut open the Emperor's vines and extinguished the inextinguishable flame. It was as if the sword ray was going to cut open the heavens. Everyone saw Chenjulu's face turn pale. Half of his body was cut in half. His body flew out like a kite with a broken string and fell heavily outside the arena. What happened? What was that sword ray? Everyone exclaimed in shock. They couldn't understand why Chenjulu, who had used the 72 gods, was suddenly defeated. Did he cheat? Yes. To block our line of sight, he must have used a trick. How could Chenjulu lose to him? Many people were angry and thought that Jiang Chen had cheated. However, Chenjulu, who had reconstructed his body, stood up slowly and shook his head. He said, I have lost. As Chenjulu spoke, he looked at Jiang Chen. Confusion flickered in his eyes. He asked, What was that sword radiance? A sword ray is a sword ray, Jiang Chen said with a smile. Why? Is there a problem? I have never seen such a sword ray. It was as if the sky was going to be cut open. Chenjulu frowned and said calmly, I couldn't block that sword ray. Yeah, that's why I showed you mercy. Otherwise, that sword radiance would have been enough to kill you, Jiang Chen said. That sword ray was the 10,000 transformations heaven slash. With Jiang Chen's current strength, the 10,000 transformations heaven slash was enough to kill Chenjulu. However, Jiang Chen didn't do that. He could see that although Chenjulu and Tianzi wanted to kill him, they didn't have the intention to do so. Chapter 832. As the saying goes, those who kill will always be killed. However, Tianzi and Jiang Chen were different. They kept shouting about wanting to kill Jiang Chen and occasionally emitted killing intent, but they didn't want to kill Jiang Chen from the bottom of their hearts. At most, they would beat Jiang Chen up. Jiang Chen was sure that he didn't misjudge Chenjulu, so he spared Chenjulu's life with a myriad transformations heavenly slash. Of course, Chenjulu was indeed very strong, but he didn't take precautions and didn't know that Jiang Chen had such a move. If he was on guard, the outcome of this battle would have been uncertain. Actually, we should have guessed it earlier. Since he can suppress the successor of the Divine Emperor, his strength must not be weak. Someone sighed and said, It's just that we were confused by his cultivation. Yes, we were confused by his cultivation. In fact, this silly guy is the real ruthless one. Everyone sighed and felt melancholy. How did a lower true god cultivate to have such battle prowess? Wouldn't he be invincible after his cultivation increased? I admit defeat this time, Chenjulu calmly said. But it won't necessarily be the same next time. Yes, you'll be on guard against me next time. Jiangchen smiled and said, I hope that we can sit down and have a good chat the next time we meet. Don't fight and kill for no reason. Sit down and have a good chat? Chenjulu's expression was strange. He secretly thought, you tricked us so ruthlessly and you still want to have a good chat? I'll give you a Dao technique. I announce that the champion of this year's Vast Heaven Conference is... The old man frowned and glanced at Jiangchen. Are you sure you're called silly? Yes, Tianzi, Chenjulu, and the others all know my name, Jiangchen said. Then, the champion of this year's competition is silly, the old man said. The word silly was a bit. This is a Vast Heaven stone, the prize of this year's Vast Heaven Conference. Then, the old man handed a seemingly ordinary stone to Jiangchen. Jiangchen touched it with his hand. His expression was calm, but his heart was in turmoil. This was a clear heaven stone. It was clearly a corner of the south wall. It was a fragment of south wall. This? How do I use this stone? Jiangchen asked, pretending not to know anything. Haotian stone, it can be used to refine weapons. It is rumored that it contains the most primitive symbols of the great Tao from the beginning of the world, the old man said. However, if you want to use the Haotian stone to refine weapons, you need a supreme flame. Normal flames can't melt this stone. As for the primordial grand Tao runes contained within the vast heaven stone, no one has been able to see through them since ancient times, and no one has been able to comprehend them. Jiangchen sneered in his heart when he heard this. Could there be runes of the primitive great Tao here? What a joke! This was a fragment of the southern wall. However, this stone was indeed extraordinary and indestructible. Jiangchen pondered that it was time for him to refine a Tao-confirming weapon. His chasing heaven sword had been shattered, and he did not have a suitable weapon in this life. Fellow Taoists, can you sell this Haotian stone to me? Right at this time, a middle-aged man walked over, his face carrying an amiable smile as he said, As long as you name a price. Fellow Taoist, the Haotian stone is extraordinary. As the saying goes, possessing a jade ring becomes a crime. Another person walked over and said, Why not sell it? Oh? You all mean that if I don't hand over the Haotian stone, someone will make a move against me? Jiangchen raised his brows and said, This place is Haotian City. According to the Void God Realm's rules, one can't make a move here. Fellow Taoist, it's true that you can't make a move, but can you leave this place? That middle-aged man said. The vicinity of the transmission array is probably already full of people. They won't let you leave through the transmission array. As for leaving Haotian City and heading to other places transmission array, I think once you walk out of Haotian City you'll lose your life. When Jiangchen heard that, he secretly nodded his head. What this middle-aged man said was indeed right. But the Haotian stone was of great importance. It was a fragment of the southern wall. Perhaps it would have great use in the future. This thing could be light or heavy. Jiangchen did not wish to hand it over just like this. Everyone, this is my prize. I don't wish to sell it, Jiangchen said. You all can't forcefully snatch it, right? In this place, we naturally won't forcefully snatch it. An old man also walked over and said very straightforwardly, But leaving this place, it won't be like this. Really straightforward. Are you sure you have me? Jiangchen said softly, feeling very helpless in his heart too. To be able to say this sort of words in front of so many people, the person's foundation was bound to be deep. There was absolutely some peak faction backing him up behind. Jiangchen did not wish to offend these factions excessively. If he really provoked them into a corner, the consequences would be too ghastly to imagine. I say, what's with the few of you? This is my Profound True Sect's in-name disciple. Right at this time, Profound True Sect, Formation Sect, as well as Heavenly Talisman Sect's 3 elders walked over. Their expressions were unfriendly, staring at those few people. You even want to snatch something from my Heavenly Talisman Sect's in-name disciple? Moreover, It's an open robbery. Do you put my Heavenly Talisman sect in your eyes? The Heavenly Talisman sect's elder said in a deep voice. My formation sect doesn't cause trouble, but we're not afraid of trouble either. The meaning of the formation sect's elder was also very clear. This was to protect Jiangchen. Formation sect, Heavenly Talisman sect, Profound True sect, your three sects stand aloof from worldly affairs and have transcendent statuses. Now you want to become enemies with us for this unnamed disciple? The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and said, My Aeoli Heavenly sect is not afraid of you. As soon as these words came out, everyone couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Many people looked at Qingzhulu. After all, no one expected that this middle-aged man was actually from the same sect as Qingzhulu. On the other side, the old man also narrowed his eyes and said softly, I'm from Kunlun Mountain. Since you've said it out loud, then I won't hide it. Another man said, I'm the first elder of Extinction Shadow sect. Today, my Extinction Shadow sect will definitely take this Haotian stone. At this moment, Jiangchen blinked his eyes and stood in place. His gaze swept across Tianzi, Qingzhulu, and Luing. This has nothing to do with me. I can't make the decision, Luing said straightforwardly. I haven't inherited Extinction Shadow sect yet. I can't control the first elder. I'm not that kind of person. But he's also my Kunlun Mountain's elder. I can't control him. Tianzi smiled bitterly and hurriedly explained. Qingzhulu smiled and shook his head. It has nothing to do with me. Kunlun Mountain, Aeoli Heavenly sect, Extinction Shadow sect. You three sects together, do you think you can compete with our three sects? The Formation sect's elder said in a deep voice. He stared at the old man from Kunlun Mountain and said, The first elder of Kunlun Mountain was also my Formation sect's unnamed disciple. A grand elder of your Aeoli Heavenly sect also once entered my Formation sect. The Formation sect's elder raised his eyebrows. What? Did you ask your grand elder if you want to rob my Formation sect's disciple? Chapter 833. Your Absolute Shadow sect master was even a nominal disciple of my Xuanzhen sect back then. Do you know this? Xuanzhen sect's elder said. And an elder of your Kunlun Mountain also cultivated in my Heavenly Talisman sect back then. An ancestor of Aeoli Heavenly sect who cultivated array formations in my array sect 1,000 years ago. At this moment, these three elders said one after another. This was clearly suppressing people. This, cough cough. Kunlun Mountain, Absolute Shadow sect, and Aeoli Heavenly sect's three powerhouses were actually speechless for a moment when they heard that. What could they say? There's nothing else to say. Those few big shots of their own were all disciples of these three sects. Now, they wanted to pull strings. What to do? I say, don't talk about this. That's all in the past. Absolute Shadow sect's powerhouse said in a deep voice. Let's talk about this matter now. Now, this matter is also very clear. He's a nominal disciple of my Heavenly Talisman sect. That's right. You all dare to snatch openly. We dare to protect our calf openly. The three sects elders were very unyielding, not yielding half a step in the slightest. With this, the other three people were at their wits' end. Were they really going to shed all pretense of cordiality? But one had to know, Heavenly Talisman sect, Array sect, and Xuanzhen sect, these three sects had very special statuses in the nine heavens divine realm. Unless it was a last resort, no one wanted to provoke them. The three of you, just do what you want. My Divine Emperor clan supports you. The Divine Emperor's successor suddenly opened his mouth, his eyes flickering with a cold light. He even took out the Divine Emperor token and said, With this token in hand, my words are like the Divine Emperor's own words. The moment these words came out, the atmosphere of the entire place became somewhat stifling. Because Kunlun Mountain, Aeoli Heavenly sect, and Absolute Shadow sect, these three sects were all very strong, at the top. They had their own concerns and did not want to get too close to the Divine Emperor clan, so as to avoid attracting some unnecessary trouble. But they also really wanted to obtain the Hautian stone. After more than 10 breaths, Absolute Shadow Sect's powerhouse opened his mouth and said, "Today, my Shadow Sect won't give face to Heavenly Talisman Sect, Array Sect, and Xuanzhen Sect. Hey! Be careful with your words. It's not like you're in charge of Extinction Shadow Sect." Lu Ying's face turned ugly. She stared at the strong cultivator of the Extreme Shadow Sect and said, "Did my father agree to this?" "Of course." The cultivator of the Extreme Shadow Sect nodded and bowed to Lu Ying. He said respectfully, "Without your permission, I wouldn't have dared to come here." "What? It can't be?" Lu Ying was stunned. He didn't know about this at all. His father didn't tell him. "Young master, now that we have the support of the Emperor God clan, why should we be afraid of these 3 sects?" the expert from the Extreme Shadow Sect said. Lu Ying frowned when she heard that. No one knew what she was thinking. On the other side, after the 2 experts heard the words of the Absolute Shadow Sect's expert, they hesitated for a moment before speaking one after another, expressing that they would rob him today. "However, we can't fight here." The elder of the Heavenly Seals Sect raised his eyebrows. "If you don't let him leave, we won't leave either. Let's see who can outlast the other." "That's right. Anyway, we can't fight in Clear Sky City. At most, we'll just keep wasting time here," the elder of the Xuanzhen Sect said. He smiled at Jiang Chen and said, "Registered disciples are still disciples. Don't worry. With the 3 of us here, you'll be fine." "Thank you," Jiang Chen said softly, but his heart inexplicably palpitated. He had a feeling that today's matter wouldn't be so simple. What rules can bind the Emperor God token? The successor of the Emperor God raised his eyebrows and looked around. He said, "You all know the meaning of the Emperor God token, right?" As soon as these words came out, everyone fell silent. Because, as this young man said, with the Emperor God token in hand, all the rules in the world could be broken. This was the power of the Emperor God. At this moment, the 3 experts of Kunlun Mountain, Aolai Heavenly Sect, and Extreme Shadow Sect all stepped forward and walked toward Jiang Chen. Since he had the support of the Emperor God token, he could fight in Clear Sky City. "What are you doing? Are you really going to fight?" the elder of the Heavenly Seals Sect warned. "Don't come over. Believe it or not, I can shout and there will be experts coming to help." "That's right. Don't act recklessly." The 3 elders of the Xuanzhen Sect, Array Sect, and Heavenly Seals Sect were anxious, and their foreheads were covered in cold sweat. They were elders, but they majored in array formations and talismans. If they fought with others, they would be no match for the 3 people in front of them if they were unprepared. "If you have the guts, wait until I finish setting up the array formation before you attack." The elder of the Array Sect was anxious. If they fought force with force, they wouldn't be able to stop the 3 of them at all. "Do you dare to give me 30 breaths of time? When I condense the talismans, I'll suppress the 3 of you." The elder of the Heavenly Seals Sect was also anxious, and his hands had already begun to form seals. However, the 3 of them knew the strength of the Heavenly Seals Sect, Array Sect, and Xuanzhen Sect. How could they give them time to set up the array formation and condense the talismans? Boom! In an instant, the 3 of them attacked. Their speed was extremely fast, like lightning. 3 palms headed straight for Jiang Chen. "Don't kill him! Don't kill him!" At the same time, Qinzhilu, Lu Ying, and Tianzi hurriedly said. Although they couldn't help much, they could at least save Jiang Chen's life. At this moment, Jiang Chen felt desperate and helpless. He felt powerless. This was the gap between them. Without strength, no matter how talented you were nothing in front of a real powerhouse. Whoosh! However, before the 3 of them could hit Jiang Chen, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard suddenly. Following that, a red caltrip broke through the air like a red thunderbolt. In an instant, it wrapped around Jiang Chen and pulled him to the side. After that, a beautiful woman in red flew over from afar. She was very eye-catching. "How dare you bully my junior brother?" When Jiang Chen heard that, he raised his head and looked at her. His eyes lit up and he said excitedly, Senior sister. Junior brother, what's wrong with you? Why is there someone looking for trouble with you again? At the same time, the smiling god also appeared. He followed behind the red caltrip yarn with a smile on his face. Smiling god? Hong Ling? Everyone exclaimed. Many people didn't know that the smiling god and Hong Ling were both from the sky-reaching school. However, the three powerhouses from Kunlun Mountain, Shadow Sect, and Glory Heavenly Sect didn't care. They stared at Hong Ling without a trace of fear. It was because they were strong enough. Smiling god Hong Ling, you too want to protect this kid? This is actually very simple. As long as he hands over the Haotian stone, everything will be fine. The three of them said. Junior brother, do you want to give them the Haotian stone? The smiling god asked with a smile. When Jiang Chun heard that, he shook his head and said, I don't want to give it to them. Then don't give it to them. Hong Ling came to Jiang Chen's side and patted Jiang Chen's head lovingly. She said, I'll support you. Chapter 834. Smiling Heavenly God and Red Caltrip Yarn came. The two of them were very calm, but their attitudes were very firm. However, the three experts from Kunlun Mountain were also very firm. Today, with the support of the Divine Emperor clan, they were going to openly snatch it. Today, no matter who comes, it won't work. The eyes of the Kunlun Mountain expert flickered with a cold light, and he said, As long as he obediently hands over the Haotian stone, we can spare his life. Smiling Heavenly God, Red-Clothed War God, Red Caltrip Yarn, are you guys from the same sect as him? But so what? The expert from Absolute Shadow Sect raised his eyebrows, very domineering. So what if the two of you work together? Today, you still can't protect him. The expert from Aolai Heavenly Sect didn't say anything, but took a step forward. His attitude was very clear, he wouldn't give in. Senior sister, it seems like the two of us can't suppress these three fellows. Smiling Heavenly God joked. Maybe our reputation isn't big enough. TCH, just fight. Red Caltrip Yarn raised her eyebrows, pointed at the three experts, and said, You go. I go? Smiling Heavenly God was dumbfounded. She really wanted him to go alone? Senior sister, then what will you do? Smiling Heavenly God asked. I want to protect Junior brother. Red Caltrip Yarn glared at Smiling Heavenly God, and said, Senior sister's words are not useful? When these words came out, Smiling Heavenly God's heart was incomparably bitter. He glanced at Jiang Chen, thinking to himself, is this the difference in treatment? Even if he is indeed a bit handsome, isn't Senior sister too biased? On the other side, Big Bear also came. He stood weakly to the side, not daring to make a sound. Of course, he wasn't afraid of the three experts from Kunlun Mountain, but he didn't dare to get too close to Red Caltrip Yarn. What if he also made a move? Big Bear didn't have the strength to contend against these three experts. My senior sister has spoken, let me fight the three of you alone. At this moment, Smiling Heavenly God braced himself and walked out, cold sweat dripping down his back. If it was a one-on-one battle, the Smiling God would not be afraid of any one of them. However, 1 against 3, this was no laughing matter. The three people before him were all sovereigns. Big Bear! You look after Junior brother, I'll go. Red Caltrip Yarn was just joking before. How could she really let the Smiling God fight the three of them alone? As soon as she finished speaking, Dishyong arrived by Jiang Chen's side. He smiled and said, Don't worry. No one below Lord level can harm you. Senior brother Dishyong, I'm counting on you. Jiang Chen whispered. Boom! Suddenly, a loud explosion was heard. The Red Caltrip Yarn attacked without hesitation. His red robes seemed to be stained with the blood of his enemies. A long spear pierced through the void like a raging fire, directly lifting up the body of the Extinction Shadow Sect expert. The tip of the spear trembled, and a cherry blossom bloomed. The Extreme Shadow Sect cultivator exploded. One spear attack, cherry blossoms bloomed, and the red robes were valiant. She could be called a war god. At this moment, everyone was moved. When they looked at the red caltrip yarn, their eyes were filled with shock and fear. This woman is too fierce. Ha, have you not heard of her reputation? Red war god. 5 sovereigns have died in her hands, if not 10. This woman is really strong. How can she get married in the future? Who can control her? Someone's thinking is very special. He's actually concerned about the future of the red caltrip yarn. Damn woman. You're too presumptuous. At this moment, the extreme shadow sect expert's body was reconstructed. He retreated to the side and said coldly, "Aren't you afraid of my extreme shadow sect's revenge?" When these words came out, many people could not help but tremble. The extreme shadow sect was known for their ferocity. Their assassination skills were profound, and they had even assassinated a divine king. Now, the words of the extreme shadow sect expert carried too much weight. They could not help but be afraid. Extreme shadow sect, right? If you dare to come to my sect, you won't be able to return. The red caltrip yarn's long spear stood in front of her. Her hair danced in the wind, and her red dress flapped loudly. Smiling God on the side smiled awkwardly. He knew that since his senior sister had made a move, there was nothing for him to do here. After all, he knew a little about the combat power of the red caltrip yarn. Let's go together. Today, we'll meet this red war god. At this moment, the remaining 2 seemed to have reached a consensus at some point in time, and they actually attacked together. One person condensed a seal, and the shadow of a towering mountain fell, crushing the void and breaking the chains of order. This was the supreme seal of Kunlun Mountain, Kunlun's seal. On the other side, the experts of Aolai Heavenly Sect displayed the 72 gods. Each of them was like a real person. A group of gods rushed out, and all kinds of divine skills erupted. Like a tide, they drowned the red caltrip yarn. The radiance and ripples spread and collided. Under the sky full of attacks, one could vaguely see a red dress dancing. The long spear kept attacking, and the light and shadow were like blooming cherry blossoms. However, after a dozen breaths, the expert of extreme shadow sect suddenly attacked. Like a black shadow, he quietly came behind the red caltrip yarn. "Senior sister. Be careful. Be careful." Jiang Chen and the others hurriedly shouted, but it was still too late. An ice spike appeared in the expert's hand, and it pierced through the protective divine power of the red caltrip yarn, and then pierced through her chest. Blood dripped, and the red caltrip yarn's body staggered. After the long spear in her hand swept out, she broke the many attacks in front of her, and then retreated to the side. "What red war god? I'll let you die here today!" The expert of extreme shadow sect said coldly. The ice spike in his hand was still dripping with the red caltrip yarn's blood. "You guys are really shameless! 3 main gods besieging my senior sister!" The smiling god said coldly, blocking in front of the red caltrip yarn. "It's okay, it's just 1 against 3. A few useless main gods, what's the big deal?" The red caltrip yarn pushed the smiling god away and said, "Just protect junior brother." "But, senior sister." The smiling god was worried. He could see that the red caltrip yarn was seriously injured. The expert of extreme shadow sect was very heavy-handed. "I still say the same thing. I don't want to fight to the death. As long as he hands over the Haotian stone, this matter will end," the expert of Kunlun Mountain said. Junior brother said that he doesn't want to hand over the Haotian stone. The red caltrip yarn raised her eyebrows and said, "Puff." However, just as she finished speaking, the red caltrip yarn's face suddenly turned pale, and a mouthful of black blood spurted out. "Damn it!" the red caltrip yarn cursed. At this moment, she realized that the ice spike of the expert of extreme shadow sect was poisonous. At this moment, she was powerless, as if her cultivation had been sealed. Especially at the wound, a layer of black fog lingered, constantly corroding her body. The poison was even spreading toward her soul. "Everyone, is it really okay for you to treat my junior brother and junior sister like this?" At this moment, A scholarly-looking young man stepped through the air from afar. He held a folding fan with mountains and rivers engraved on it. His face was handsome, but his eyes emitted a suffocating chill and killing intent. The name of the red caltrip yarn on the previous card was wrong. It was not Hong Ling, but red caltrip yarn, so I'll correct it here. Chapter 835. The newcomer had delicate features and could even be described as thin and weak. However, when he opened the fan in his hand, the mountain river illustration appeared. Everyone was shocked. The three powerhouses who had attacked earlier retreated one after another. Their eyes were filled with fear. Mountain river painter Luo Shu! Are they from the same sect? Everyone was incomparably shocked. They couldn't imagine which sect could actually nurture so many monstrous monsters. Mountain river painter Luo Shu! Red clothed war god, red caltrip yarn. Smiling god, unknown. There was also De Xiong, who didn't attack, and Jiangqin, who suppressed a profound god. These people were all monsters among monsters. I'm a reasonable person. I don't like to fight and kill. Luo Shu came closer and checked on red caltrip yarn. He heaved a sigh of relief and said, "It's nothing serious. You can handle it yourself." Then, Luo Shu looked at Jiangqin and waved the fan in his hand. He smiled and said, "Junior brother, don't be afraid today. Senior brother and senior sister will support you." "Luo Shu, are you all from the same sect?" someone asked. "What do you think?" Luo Shu raised his eyebrows and pointed at Jiangqin and the others with the fan in his hand. He said, "I'm their senior brother, and the second senior brother of the sect." As soon as these words came out, the group of people's hearts were set off by perilous waves. Mountain river painter, Luo Shu, was an expert who was comparable to a top-over god. However, he was only the second senior brother of the sect. Then, how powerful was the first senior brother of the sect? Could it be that he was comparable to a deity king? The three people who attacked earlier felt a chill run down their spines. They were in big trouble this time. An unknown and mysterious sect, a group of terrifying freaks. What would happen if they offended this group of people? Are the experts from the Emperor God's tribe not here yet? The experts from Ultimate Shadow sect looked terrible. They knew that they were no match for Luo Shu and that Luo Shu wouldn't let them go today. Right now, the only ones who could support them and protect them were the powerhouses of the God Emperor clan. "We're almost there. I can sense that we're not far from here," the Divine Emperor's successor said. As he spoke, he took a step forward and pointed at the Book of Luo, saying, "This is a matter of the God Emperor clan. No matter how powerful you are, don't interfere. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." Bang! However, just as he finished speaking, Luo Shu gently waved the fan in his hand and sent the God Emperor's successor flying. Even his physical body exploded in the air, leaving behind only his soul. "Like I said, I'm a reasonable person. I don't like fighting and killing." Luo Shu spoke softly. When his eyes opened and closed, it was as if an entire mountain was floating within. Even more so, an endless amount of killing intent appeared. "But today, as a scholar, I also want to taste the taste of blood." After that, Luo Shu looked at the three experts from Kunlun Mountain, Owl Eye Heavenly Sect, and Extinction Shadow Sect. His eyes were cold and sharp as he shouted, "You should know how to solve this, right? Luo Shu! Don't go overboard." The expert from Kunlun Mountain said coldly, "Kunlun Mountain is a top sect." "Oh? Are you threatening me?" Luo Shu laughed mockingly and said, "If I'm afraid of being threatened, I wouldn't be here today." Boom! As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Shu swung the fan in his hand horizontally. An illusory mountain appeared and instantly crashed into the Kunlun Mountain expert. Just like the God Emperor's successor, the Kunlun Mountain expert's physical body was shattered on the spot. Only his soul was left. "Eldest senior brother, don't kill them." Jiangqin frowned and said awkwardly, "Chenjulu, Tianzi, and Luing pleaded for mercy from me before. Now, consider it as me returning the favor." Oh? Is that so? Luo Shu said softly. However, he shook his head and said, Your senior sister is injured. Obviously, Luo Shu did not intend to let the three of them go. He rarely attacked, but every time he did, someone would definitely die. Whatever little junior brother says. What's wrong? However, to everyone's surprise, Red Caltrip Yarn stared at Luo Shu and said, Are you thinking of rebelling? As soon as she said that, Luo Shu coughed violently and asked with a strange expression, Junior sister, do you spoil junior brother that much? Don't tell me you. He looks like someone. Red Caltrip Yarn's eyes flashed with sadness. She did not say who that person was. However, Luo Shu knew that the person that Red Caltrip Yarn was talking about was her biological brother. However, due to some unforeseen circumstances, Red Caltrip Yarn's biological brother died. Now, perhaps Red Caltrip Yarn saw the shadow of her biological brother in Jiangchen. Senior brother, don't pretend. Senior sister asked you to stop, so stop. You don't dare to resist. Smiling Sky God joked. The disciples of the Sky Reaching School, including Katsura Matsuda and Old Chai, knew about Luo Shu's feelings for Red Caltrip Yarn. In the eyes of outsiders, Luo Shu was graceful and elegant. He looked weak but had endless arrogance and dominance. However, in the eyes of the disciples of the Sky Reaching School, a strong person like Luo Shu was like a little sheep in front of Red Caltrip Yarn. Then teach them a lesson. At this moment, Luo Shu said softly. He waved the folding fan in his hand and shattered the bodies of the two experts from Ally Heavenly Sect and Extinction Shadow Sect. However, he did not harm their lives. Their divine souls were preserved. After some time, they could rebuild their bodies and recover. However, this could be said to be a slap to the faces of the three sects in front of everyone. Extinction Shadow Sect will not stop! The expert from Extinction Shadow Sect roared. He only had a divine soul left, but his tone was still tough. Shut up! Who do you think you are? I'll spare your life. What else do you want? Get out of here! Do you really think I'm just a decoration? Lu Ying was furious. He stared at the expert from Extinction Shadow Sect and said coldly, You're just a servant after all. As soon as he said this, the soul of the Extreme Shadow Sect's expert trembled. In Extinction Shadow Sect, the ranks were very clear and detailed. No matter how strong he was, he did not dare to disobey Lu Ying. Previously, he attacked because of the order of the sect master of Extinction Shadow Sect. But now Lu Ying, the young master, had given the order. Moreover, he only had a divine soul left. It was useless to stay. Young master, goodbye. The person said softly and then turned into a stream of light and left. You should thank him. If it wasn't for silly girl's plea, you would be a dead man now. Chinjulu said to the expert from his sect. It's your fault. You should apologize. Chenjulu, you're just a little holy son of Ally Heavenly Sect. The real holy son doesn't dare to talk to me like this. The expert from Ally Heavenly Sect said coldly. With your identity as a little holy son, you want to order me around? Little holy son? Ha! One day, I'll become a real holy son and inherit the legacy of Ally Heavenly Sect. Chinjulu said coldly. Chapter 836. Although Chinjulu and the Son of Heaven had extraordinary statuses in the sect, they were not real saint children in the end. To put it bluntly, they were just candidates, substitutes. However, both of them were ambitious and confident. Their goal in the future was to become the true Holy Son and inherit the position of the sect leader of their respective sects. However, these were their own family matters, and under normal circumstances, they wouldn't talk about it in front of outsiders. But now, the expert from Ally Heavenly Sect did not give Chinjulu any face. He directly mocked Chinjulu. Especially when he said the words little saint, he used extra force and emphasized his tone. What about you? Do you think I'm not the true Holy Son? That's why you don't listen to me. Tianzi looked at the expert from his own sect and smiled faintly. The soul of the expert from Kunlun Mountain trembled. After a moment of silence, he said, "The Holy Sun is the Holy Sun. No matter how big or small you are equal." Then, he nodded at Jiangchen and Luo Shu and said, "Thank you for not killing me." "Don't thank me, thank junior brother and junior sister," Luo Shu said. Then, Luo Shu waved his hand and said, "Let's go home." "Go home? Heh, I'm afraid you can't go back." Suddenly, the sky above Clear Sky City darkened. It was as if an invisible hand had covered the entire city. Then, a figure broke through the void and appeared. He was like an emperor standing in the sky. Strands of divine chi filled the air and turned into runes. They were like stars in the sky. Beside this person, the sound of the great Tao could be heard. It was like the ancient and obscure chanting of scriptures. "Half-step Divine King! Is this an expert from the Divine Emperor clan?" Everyone was shocked. This person was so strong that he could be considered one of the strongest people in the divine world of the 9 heavens. Jiangchen and the others were also shocked. They stole a glance at Luo Shu and found that his expression was ugly. "It seems like we can't go back today." Luo Shu smiled bitterly and said directly, "I can't defeat a half-step Divine King, but I can stay today and send you all away. Senior brother, let's face it together." The smiling heavenly deity was fearless, extremely free and at ease. The smile on his face became even more exuberant as he said, "We come from the same sect, life and death are the same." "Then I won't," Jiangchen said in a solemn voice. "With my current strength, although I'm akin to an ant in front of a half-step Divine King, I also have a heart that can shake an azure dragon. Whatever senior brother and senior sister say, I, Dexiong, will not leave," Dexiong said. At this moment, the half-step God King's gaze fell upon Jiangchen, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. It was like guessing, fear, doubt, and all kinds of complicated emotions. Could it be that he saw through me at a glance? Jiangchen was shocked. To a half-step godly king, they already understood the heavenly laws and the great Tao. Perhaps, this half-step divine king only needed one glance to be able to see through Jiangchen's details clearly. However, from the trace of doubt in his eyes, Jiangchen could guess that he was doubtful and didn't dare to be sure. "Where did you come from? What's your true identity?" the half-step godly king asked. He did not mention names, but everyone followed his gaze and knew that he was asking Jiangchen. "Silly," Jiangchen said. "A nameless person from a nameless sect. You're very similar to someone I know," this half-step godly king said in a solemn voice. "But he should already be dead." Jiangchen sucked in a cold breath when he heard that. He knew that this half-step godly king was suspecting him, and his guess was very accurate. But it was impossible for Jiangchen to admit it. Once admitted, this 9 heavens divine world would no longer have a place for him. "Where's old Shai? He didn't come?" Jiangchen asked secretly. "Head elder? He was dealt a blow by the sect master, and now he's in seclusion, trying to merge with the spiritual body as soon as possible." Dexiong laughed bitterly. "But even if head elder comes, he's still not a match for a half-step godly king. Then today is a dead end?" Jiangchen sighed, feeling that after his rebirth, his fate was full of misfortune. "To be honest, although your realm is low, you give me an inexplicable sense of fear," the half-step godly king said. His voice wasn't loud, but it moved everyone present. A half-step godly king was actually afraid of a lower true god. Is this true? Even the godly emperor's successor was confused. What was going on? "Tell me your background, and maybe I can let you go," the half-step godly king said. Jiangchen frowned when he heard that. After thinking carefully, he really couldn't come up with any identity that could intimidate the other party. Helpless, Jiangchen simply kept silent. "If you don't know, take them and leave, I'll block him," Luo Shu said to the smiling god. Hearing that, the smiling god shook his head and said to Dexiong, "You take senior sister and junior brother away, senior brother, and I will block him for you. Since you're not willing to say, then I'll take it as an apology. The half-step godly king looked at Jiangchen and said, Then, don't even think about leaving today. As his voice fell, he pointed out a finger, and a Dao mark appeared on his fingertip, like a falling sun. A terrifying aura filled the air, intimidating all the living beings in Clear Sky City. He was high above, like a ruler who controlled everything. As his finger fell, Luo Shu and the smiling god attacked together, using their full strength. The folding fan of Luo Shu opened up, and the painting of mountains and rivers appeared, as if there was really a mountain and rivers. Mountains and rivers appeared, trees stood tall, and there were even hundreds of beasts roaring. However, all of this was like a piece of paper in front of the finger. With a light touch, it turned into clouds and smoke. Similarly, the smiling heavenly god was suppressed by the ray of light that seeped out from the tip of his finger. He fell to the ground, covered in blood. The gap was too big. I can't accept this. Jiangchen let out a long sigh. He wanted to use a forbidden technique, but under the pressure of the half-step godly king, he couldn't even move a finger. You dared to go against the clan of the Emperor God, this is the consequence. You all have to die. The successor of the Emperor God sneered. However, all of a sudden, a dark rainbow appeared in the originally dark sky. The red light was very flirtatious, but it was also very beautiful. At the same time, a woman appeared out of thin air, like the red caltrip yarn. She was dressed in red, but she gave off a very otherworldly feeling. She was like a celestial being, untainted by the mortal world. She gently waved her hand, and the originally dark sky suddenly became clear. There were even strands of enchanting rainbow light floating around her like a rain of light. Don't you know that he's under my protection? Just as everyone was in a daze, the woman spoke. Her voice was very pleasant and gentle, but it also gave off an indescribable arrogance. Chapter 837. Dressed in red, she was untainted by the mundane world, like a banished immortal. She was like a fairy in a dream. However, her words were very direct, and she did not mention who she was protecting. However, everyone present knew in their hearts who this woman had come for. The Array faction, Profound Truth faction, and Heavenly Talisman faction were protecting Jiangchen. The painter of rivers and mountains, the war god in red, and the smiling god were also here for Jiangchen. And now, this woman had come here. Needless to say, she must have come here for Jiangchen. Who is it? The half-step deity narrowed his eyes, but he did not attack immediately. Instead, he retreated a distance. He had a feeling that this ethereal woman in front of him was not to be trifled with. Hongyi. The woman spoke softly, and even her words were ethereal, making it impossible for others to discern her thoughts and emotions. At this moment, Jiangchen was extremely excited. His gaze fell on Hongyi, and he shouted, Sect Master! Sect Master? Hongyi? Could it be the one from the Chedi sect? For a moment, everyone was speculating, but a person appeared in everyone's mind. That person was said to have received guidance from the deity king 3,000 years ago. After that battle, she became famous, but she disappeared in a short period of time. No one knew that person's name, but they knew that she was a woman who liked to wear red clothes. She was very beautiful and ethereal. There were rumors that after deity King Tianqin fell 3,000 years ago, the woman disappeared as well. There were only some rumors about her, but many people had a vague impression of her appearance. Hongyi from the Chedi sect? 3,000 years ago, she received guidance from deity King Tianqin, comprehended the Tao, and fought against the Radiant Overgod and Martial God. After that battle, she became famous. The half-step deity king said softly, That person, is it you? That person is under my protection. Hongyi did not answer directly. Her slender finger pointed at Jiangchen, and she said, He is an unnamed disciple of my Chedi sect. What? Another unnamed disciple? An unnamed disciple can attract so many experts. An unnamed disciple is not a real disciple, right? What's with this kid? There are unnamed disciples everywhere, but these people are willing to protect him, willing to help him. What is going on? For a moment, everyone was puzzled. Was it worth making an enemy of the God Emperor's bloodline for the sake of a nominal disciple? He's just a nominal disciple. Are you sure you want to make an enemy out of the God Emperor clan for him? The half-step God King frowned and said, It's not worth it, is it? He is also my man, Hong Yi said without hiding anything. Perhaps, to her, yes meant yes, and no meant no. As for what the world would say, how they would judge her, and how they would look at her, she didn't care. However, as soon as these words were spoken, the group of people became completely disordered. There was envy, jealousy, hatred, as well as doubt. Of course, there were also those who were surprised and excited. Holy shit! Little junior brother, you're really something! How many days had it been since he went to the Chedi sect? You took down sect master Hong Yi. De Xiong stared at Jiang Chun and asked in a gossipy manner. How? Little junior brother. Aren't you too amazing? The smiling heavenly god had a peculiar expression on his face. His junior brother really was something. He even managed to capture a red dress. Even Luo Shu was speechless. He went to Cheijai sect as a nominal disciple for 2 months and captured Hong Yi just like that. This was too unexpected. This cough cough. Jiang Chen's old face turned red. For a moment, he didn't know how to explain. At the same time, the face of a woman suddenly appeared in Jiang Chen's mind. In his memory, there was a young child that he met when he was traveling around. At that time, Jiang Chen was a god king. Seeing that the child was extraordinarily talented, he gave him a few pointers. Now, after hearing these people's words, Jiang Chen finally understood. The child that he gave pointers to back then was now an adult. She was even more beautiful and ethereal. And she was the current sect master of Cheijai sect Hong Yi. Jiang Chen never thought that the matters of the world would have such fate. Perhaps this was the unfathomable cause and effect of the unseen and unfathomable karma. At the same time, Jiang Chen guessed that Hong Yi might have known his identity the moment she saw him. Otherwise, with Hong Yi's status, how could she sacrifice herself for a nominal disciple? If you want to hurt my man, I don't mind starting a war, Hong Yi said softly. I won't think too much about the outcome of the battle. Do you know the strength and foundation of my God Emperor clan? The half-step God King said in a deep voice. My God Emperor clan has a God Emperor who hasn't died yet. So what? Can he come out? Hong Yi said. Your God Emperor has a huge problem. Otherwise, why wouldn't he go into hiding? Don't use the God Emperor to scare people. If he comes out, the world will be his. Unfortunately, he can't. Hong Yi's eyes flashed coldly at this point. She stared at the half-step God King and said, The God Emperor clan's foundation is very deep, but don't think that my Cheijai sect's foundation isn't enough. When these words came out, the expressions of some old people who had lived for a long time changed. The younger generation naturally didn't know about the Cheijai sect. However, the older generation knew how terrifying this sect was. They also knew that the Cheijai sect and the sky-piercing school were the same sect. They even knew that when the sky-piercing school suffered a great calamity and was almost destroyed, but the Cheijai sect was safe and sound. Did those enemies let the Cheijai sect go? Obviously not. Then, there was only one possibility. The power that could almost destroy the sky-piercing school back then was afraid of the Cheijai sect. And how terrifying was the power that could almost destroy the sky-piercing school. But they didn't dare to make a move against the Cheijai sect. From this, it could be seen that the Cheijai sect's foundation was unimaginable. There were even a few old monsters who knew some of the secrets of the past. That matter involved a lot of things. It was said that it involved the great 1,000 worlds outside the southern wall. Hand over the Haotian stone and I can leave, the half-step God King said. This half-step God King seemed to be easy to talk to, but in reality, everyone could see that he was afraid of Hong Yi. A powerhouse who was about to become a God King was actually afraid. This Hong Yi, what is her cultivation level? Someone asked the people beside him in a low voice. Can't see clearly. Someone frowned. But to be able to make a half-step god king afraid, her cultivation level is probably not weak either. The Hautian stone was originally his. If he doesn't want to give it to you, you can't go and take it. Hongyi raised her eyebrows and said, Can you still continue? If you can't, then let's fight. Are you really not afraid of my God Emperor clan? The half-step God King said coldly. If he backed down today, the God Emperor clan's face would be lost. What is there to be afraid of? It's not like I haven't killed a half-step God King before. It's not like I haven't seen a real God King before. As for a God Emperor, does he dare to come? Can he come? Hongyi said softly. Under her ethereal appearance hid a proud and aloof heart. Chapter 838. When the ethereal red robe said these overbearing words, the contempt he held for the celestial Darch clan was obvious. At this moment, the half-step God King's face was gloomy. He was silent for a while. His eyes seemed to be filled with blood. After a dozen breaths, he didn't say anything. He turned into a stream of light and rushed into the sky, leaving the crowd. I'll keep you company, Hongyi said softly. She knew what the other party meant. Once a battle of this level started, it would spread far and wide. Even the rules of the Great Tao would be affected. If an ordinary person were to touch it slightly, their body would shatter and their bones would shatter, and even their soul would scatter. Although the half-step God King didn't say anything, his meaning was clear. He wanted to fight this battle. Hongyi naturally wouldn't shrink back. Since she came here today, she would bring Jiangchen back safely. Just wait, Luoshu said softly. If Hongyi is defeated, we will all die. Yes, if she wins, we can live. But the God Emperor clan will lose face. The smiling God King frowned and said, Is it really okay to offend the God Emperor clan? What are you afraid of? We are already enemies of the world. Red Caltrip Yarn's injuries recovered quickly. At this moment, she was valiant and formidable, holding a long spear in her hand. On the side, Jiangchen didn't say anything. But he also knew that since he entered the sky-piercing school, it meant that he was enemies of the world. Although he didn't know what the sky-piercing school had experienced, and how many enemies it had, he knew that from now on, he would have to go against the enemy. How powerful are the half-step God Kings of my clan? After that woman dies, you will all die. The God Emperor's descendant hadn't reconstructed his body yet. His divine soul floated in the distance, and his tone was still arrogant. Don't you understand the situation? Jiang Chen's eyes flashed coldly and said, We are waiting for the result of fate. And your fate is already under our control. After saying that, Jiang Chen rushed out. With a punch, a tiger's roar shook the sky. A tiger head that seemed to be made of gold fell and destroyed the divine soul of the God Emperor's descendant. He was completely dead. F***CK. He really killed him. This guy, is he really not afraid? At this moment, everyone was moved. Destroying the other party's physical body and slapping the other party's face was nothing. However, if he really killed the successor of the God Emperor, that would be very serious. In any case, it's still uncertain whether we'll live or die. Why don't we kill one first? If we're really going to die, we'll drag a few down with us. Jiangchen said softly. He looked around and said, Why don't you come and try? If you dare to make a move, we'll kill you. As soon as these words were spoken, many people's faces darkened. Most of them came from top sects and had never been threatened like this before. But now, they really didn't dare to make a sound. It's raining. At this moment, raindrops began to fall from the sky. They were dark rainbows. That was blood, the blood of a top expert. Their blood contained their Tao. When a drop of blood fell, it directly shattered a mountain. The void collapsed within the blood droplets. Even the laws and order could not melt the blood droplets. Divine King's blood, a single drop can create a blue sea, cut down the sun and moon. Someone sighed in admiration. At that level, even a single strand of hair could cut down the sun, moon, and stars. Whose blood is it? Someone asked. Blood floated in the sky, but no one knew who it belonged to. It's that half-step divine king's blood, Jiangchen said subconsciously. As soon as he said this, Jiangchen immediately shut his mouth. At the side, smiling God and the others looked at Jiangchen strangely as if they knew something. Dishiong was very honest and asked, "How do you know it's Hong Yi's blood?" "You. Isn't that obvious? You must have seen the blood. Otherwise, how can you be so sure?" Luo Shu muttered. Previously, Hong Yi said that Jiangchen was her man. Everyone thought that the two of them were just ordinary Dao companions. But now, it seemed like the two of them had already done something. Cough, cough. Jiangchen coughed awkwardly, but his heart calmed down. Blood floated in the sky. It was that half-step divine king's blood. This meant that in the battle above the clouds, Hong Yi had the upper hand and was suppressing her opponent. Sure enough, after the time for half an incense stick to burn, the half-step God King fell from the sky and smashed into a mountain with a bang. The mountain collapsed and turned into dust. Dust flew in all directions. Then, Hong Yi also descended from the clouds. Her expression was calm and there was a trace of blood on her body. She waved at Jiangchen and said, "Let's go home." That's not my home. It's your sect," Jiangchen said weakly. However, as soon as he said this, Hong Yi glared at him and said, "What's mine is yours. That's my home and also your home." After saying this, Hong Yi grabbed Jiangchen's shoulder and left. "Hey! What are you saying? Since when is Chaejai sect our junior brother's home? His home is with us. F***CK. It's over. Junior brother has been kidnapped. If sect master comes back and knows about this, he will probably explode in anger." Luo Shu and the rest had a strange expression. Junior brother was gone just like that? However, after witnessing Hong Yi's strength, they did not dare to say anything. They could only watch as Jiangchen followed Hong Yi home. "Everyone, let's forget about today's matter. If someone bullies the weak again and suppresses my junior brother with their cultivation realm, don't blame us for being impolite." Luo Shu looked around and said, "Our sect has always been very strict with our disciples. As long as your cultivation is not higher than my junior brother by 2 major realms, you can attack at will. If we find out that someone who has surpassed this limit has made a move on little junior brother, just you wait." After saying that, Luo Shu nodded at Smiling God and the rest. Then the group left. The Great Heaven Conference was considered to have ended. However, the Great Heaven Conference this time was turbulent, and caused a huge commotion. Moreover, everyone knew that this matter was definitely not over. Not only did it involve the Great Heaven Stone, but it also involved a few top sects and the mysterious sect that Luo Shu and the rest were in. Some people had already started to take action and left the Void God world to search for Luo Shu and the rest. "He's back." Above the clouds, in a void somewhere, 2 elders stood side by side. They were wearing white robes with the word Hao carved on their sleeves. If anyone saw them, they would definitely be shocked because these 2 were the supreme elders of the Great Heaven sect. From the beginning to the end, they had been watching from above the clouds and had seen everything. It was only when Hong Yi appeared and the half-divine kings spoke that they understood some things. "Should we ask him to come back?" one of them asked. "It's still early. It's not the time." The other person shook his head. "He will come back eventually. What we need to do is wait for him to come back." "Then, what about Kunlun Mountain, Ultimate Shadow Sect, and Ally Heavenly Sect?" the person asked. "Do we need to destroy them? Let them be." Chapter 839. The Vast Heaven Stone had always been guarded by the Vast Heaven Sect. No one would have thought that the Vast Heaven Sect would actually use the Vast Heaven Stone as a prize in the Vast Heaven Conference this time. Perhaps there was some ulterior motive in this, but no one knew. The Vast Heaven Conference ended. Many people dispersed. There were also people who continued to stay behind to train. But the vast heaven conference this time could be said to be stirring up a storm. Silly boy, this name, cough cough, will probably become famous in the future. Who dares to provoke him in the future? A lower rank true god, his combat power is ridiculously fearsome. The most important thing is that those few senior apprentice brothers and sisters behind him are all famous powerhouses and ruthless people in the 9 heavens divine world. Quite a few people were discussing Jiang Qin, not knowing his real name. But the word silly boy spread throughout the entire void god realm, and even the outside world. Some people were curious where in the world Jiang Qin came from, and what cultivation method he cultivated. There were also people looking forward to it, hoping that they could still encounter this monster next time. At this moment, inside the Chejai sect, Jiang Qin sat cross-legged inside his own cave abode obediently, with Red standing in front of him. Ever since returning, Red had been staring at Jiang Qin and did not speak either. Jiang Qin did not dare to ask either. Just like this, all the way until half an incense stick's time later, Jiang Qin could not stand Red's gaze and braced himself to ask. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with me? Want me to say it? Or are you saying it yourself? Red's voice was very clear and very gentle. Say what? I don't understand what you mean. Jiang Qin shook his head, but he also knew Red's meaning in his heart. When Red heard that, she walked around Jiang Qin once and suddenly smiled. That smile was beautiful like the world's most beautiful flower blooming. Should I call you master, or should I call you heavenly stellar divine king, or call you disciple? Red asked with a smile that was not a smile. Jiang Qin wiped the cold sweat on his forehead, knowing that this matter could not be concealed anymore. Red's cultivation was too high, unfathomable, as if she had long seen through great Tao. Actually, you knew my identity from the beginning, right? Jiang Qin didn't pretend to be confused and asked directly. Your physical body can be changed, your identity can be changed, but your soul will not change, Red Dress said. From the moment I saw you, I knew that you had returned. As he spoke, Hongyi laughed bitterly, as if mocking himself. Back then, you casually taught a little girl. You never thought that she would become the sect master of the Cleaver sect, did you? Perhaps if I didn't mention it, you would have already forgotten about it. Jiang Qin smiled awkwardly. Needless to say, Jiang Qin also thought for a long time before he remembered. After all, back when Jiang Qin was the God King, he had given guidance to far too many people. At that time, Red Coat was still young, so Jiang Qin did not take it to heart. As for giving Red Coat pointers back then, it was just a casual act. That's right. Is that why you're willing to help me? Jiang Qin asked with a strange expression. You're willing to sacrifice yourself? Is that considered a sacrifice? Red Coat blinked. Her current appearance could not be described as ethereal at all. Instead, she looked a little mischievous. However, her expression soon turned serious. She stared at Jiang Qin and said seriously, Back then, if it weren't for your guidance, perhaps I would have died long ago, or perhaps I wouldn't have achieved what I have today. I know that back then, you never remembered me in your heart. You only treated me as a passerby in your life. However, I told myself that if one day you made me successful, I would serve you for the rest of my life and do everything I could. Jiang Qin stared at Red Coat. He could tell that she was not lying. However, just because I gave you guidance, you're willing to help me like this? Then now. What is our relationship? Jiang Qin asked, blushing. What relationship do you think it is? Red Coat asked. I don't know either. Jiang Qin smiled bitterly. To be honest, when it came to relationships, Jiang Qin was an idiot. His EQ was ridiculously low. Perhaps only in front of the moon god would Jiang Qin clearly express his love. Now, Jiang Qin did not know how to face Red Coat. Take responsibility? Or pretend that nothing happened? He would still be an unnamed disciple of the Cleaver sect, and Red Coat would still be the sect leader? However, Jiang Qin knew that this was not realistic. Once as a teacher, always as a teacher. Red Coat said. Now your identity is different. In front of outsiders, you are a disciple of the Cleaver sect. What about when there are no outsiders? Jiang Chen asked. You gave me guidance, so you are my teacher, Redcoat said. Speaking of this, Redcoat's lips curled up slightly. She said, Of course, I don't mind making our relationship closer. Why are all of your disciples like this? Jiang Chen said involuntarily. He thought of Baifeng Yu, and also thought of Hua Lianyi and Naylan Mayer. Those few disciples, instead of cultivating properly, they were thinking about how to sleep with him all day long. It was not easy for him to be a teacher either. Now another one came. And this one, Jiang Chen, was really at his wit's end. Someone who could even defeat a half-step divine king. How could Jiang Chen dare to rebel? Can I go out? I want to cultivate. Jiang Chen did not wish to be entangled on this topic. You just started cultivating the Cleaver sect's cultivation method and might not be familiar with it. I'll personally guide you here, Redcoat said. Finished talking, Redcoat blinked her eyes and asked gently, Do you need to vent the yang energy in your body? Too much yang energy is not good for the body. Wait. Don't come over. Let's talk nicely. Jiang Chen panicked and kept retreating. But Redcoat's strength was extremely strong. With a flick of her finger, she suppressed Jiang Chen. Following that, she smiled at Jiang Chen and said, It's not the first time either. I'm not shy. What are you shy about? Jiang Chen was just about to speak, but the result was that he helplessly discovered that even his voice was sealed by Redcoat. Following that, something that everyone could guess happened in the cave abode. After several incense sticks' time, Redcoat walked out of the cave abode. Her face carried a trace of crimson red. Turning back to glance at the cave abode's door, she muttered, Your mouth says no, but your body is still very honest. At this moment, Jiang Chen was very disheveled. Lying on the ground, he wanted to cry but had no tears. Could it be that he had to compromise just like that? Could it be that in the days to come, he had to keep being bullied like this? No! I'm a divine king, I'm not resigned to this. However, at the thought of Redcoat's strength, Jiang Chen's expression turned ugly. Not daring to resist, he could only run. Thinking, Jiang Chen put on his clothes. After looking around outside the cave abode for a while, he planned to quietly leave this place and return to the Heavenly Reaching School. Don't think about running. It's very safe in my Cleaver sect. Suddenly, Redcoat's voice sounded in Jiang Chen's ears. She joked, Moreover, do you think that you'll be fine after returning to the Heavenly Reaching School? Do you think that there's anyone in the Heavenly Reaching School who can stop me? Chapter 840. With Hong Yi's strength, not even the slightest movement in the Thorough Earth sect could escape her eyes. She might have expected that Jiang Chen would run away, so she had been keeping an eye on Jiang Chen. At this moment, Jiang Chen smiled embarrassedly and did not dare to say anything more. He returned to the cave abode with his tail between his legs. This woman, is she really going to settle me down here for the rest of my life? Jiang Chen muttered. But come to think of it, this was not bad. At least this place was very safe, and the Chedi sect had a deep foundation. They had almost all the cultivation resources. Actually, come to think of it, other than being bullied by her, everything else here is very good. Jiang Chen whispered. Soon, old woman she came. She brought a lot of tonics for Jiang Chen. She gave them a nice name and asked Jiang Chen to practice. But when Jiang Chen looked at the supplements in front of him, the corner of his mouth twitched. These again to replenish yang qi? Jiang Chen asked with a dark face. Cultivating the tiger soul requires a lot of yang qi. You have only cultivated one tiger bone now. There is still a long way to go before you reach the Mahayana stage. The angry old woman said. Your tiger bone is different from ours. What's the difference? Jiang Chen asked. His tiger bones had now been activated, and a rose had appeared on one of them. It was already considered a metamorphosis. Our tiger bones are one, different from yours. Your tiger bones are separated, and each one may change. The angry old woman explained. Just like your tiger bone now, it has turned into a rose. Next, your other tiger bones may turn into different things. The angry old woman said. Our tiger bones are different. They can only turn into one thing. Is that so? Jiangchun was stunned. He was a little excited and looked forward to it. If all of his tiger bones had transformed into different things that were accompanied by different abilities, then his strength wouldn't be as simple as just multiplying. However, Jiangchun was still a little confused. One of his tiger bones had turned into a rose, but Jiangchun really did not know what abilities this rose had. He only knew that every time this rose manifested, his battle prowess would skyrocket. There didn't seem to be anything special about the rest. Just focus on your cultivation, the angry old woman said. Don't leave the Chedi sect for now. The outside world is looking for you everywhere. Cough, cough. Jiangchun awkwardly coughed a few times. He also knew that he had caused quite a ruckus in the Void God realm. The first time he entered the Faux God world, he killed many people with a single galaxy palm. His reputation as a simple-minded person grew. The second time, he was even more excessive. Not only did he scam the disciples of the three sects, he even took away the light-blessed land. As for the third time, he had obtained first place in the Vast Heaven meeting, obtained the Vast Heaven stone, attracted experts from all over, and even killed the successor of the Divine Emperor. Every time he entered the Faux God world, the commotion he caused would grow larger and larger. It would not be difficult for him to avoid being noticed. The most important thing was that this time was different from before. This time, Jiangchun killed the successor of the Divine Emperor. This was a major event. As if piercing through the sky. One had to know, in this world, not many sects, and not many people dared to kill a member of the Divine Emperor's clan, let alone the successor of the Divine Emperor. Right now, the Divine Emperor's clan probably already knew about this matter. Perhaps they were currently sending people to search for Jiangchun. Once found, with the power of the Divine Emperor's clan, it was enough to annihilate Jiangchun. In fact, the people around Jiangchun would suffer a calamity. What you mean now is that I have to keep hiding here? Jiangchun asked. If you're really bored, you can go to the Faux God world to stroll around, the angry old woman said. The Faux God world is connected to this Nine Firmaments divine world. There are all kinds of people inside. Furthermore, there are many treasures hidden inside. There are inheritances left behind by predecessors, and also rare natural treasures. There are even some ancient tombs that might have divine kings buried inside, even divine emperors. Hearing that, Jiangchun's eyes lit up. What did this angry old woman mean? Was she telling him to go to the Faux God world again? But now, if he were to enter the Faux God world again, he really didn't know if he could come out alive. After all, he had too many enemies. Don't worry, Luo Shu and the rest have already spoken. In the future, when you're in the Faux God world, under normal circumstances, people 2 major realms above you won't make a move against you. The angry old woman seemed to know what Jiangchun was worried about. Oh? I'm currently a lower true god. Jiangchun's expression was strange as he said. 2 realms higher than me. Celestial god. Profound god. Thinking up to here, Jiangchun could not help chuckling. With his current strength, as long as he did not encounter a top-level upper profound god, other cultivators could basically be easily suppressed. As long as the honorable god level did not make a move, Jiangchun could do whatever he wanted. As for the titled god above the honorable god, or even the master god, Jiangchun did not need to consider them. If those people really dared to make a move against him, Luo Shu and the rest would not sit idly by. I know you're very strong, but you have to remember one thing. There's always someone better than you. The angry old woman reminded him. Previously, I was also in the Faux God world and saw your friend. He's very strong and won't be weaker than you. Which one? Jiangchun asked. The one with the Shadow Dao spirit. The angry old woman frowned. That person hid himself very well. Perhaps even you didn't notice. His strength is extremely strong, not inferior to the Son of Heaven and Chinjulu. When these words came out, Jiangchen was immediately shocked. He had always known that Mu Xingyun was very strong, but in Jiangchen's heart, Mu Xingyun, who had just ascended, should not be strong to that extent. However, who was the angry old woman? She could see the depth of Mu Xingyun's strength at a glance. Otherwise, she would not have reminded Jiangchen. By the way, let me tell you something. The Son of Heaven, Chenjulu, and even Zhu Ming that you met in the faux god world are actually just clones. One had to know that the top disciples of the sects would not really use their true bodies to enter the faux god world. After all, once they died, there would be nothing left. Under normal circumstances, those people would use their clones to enter the faux god world and use them to train. This way, even if the clones died, their true bodies would still be there. At most, they would be injured. What? They are all clones that contain blood essence and consciousness. Jiangchen was shocked. Just their clones were already so strong. Then, wouldn't the true bodies of Chenjulu and the rest be a mess? However, thinking about it carefully, it made sense. The Son of Heaven, Chenjulu, and young Master Zhu Ming were all famous figures among their peers in the Nine Heavens divine world. If they only displayed that bit of strength in the faux god world, their reputation would not be so great, and they would not be valued by their respective sections. You were once a divine king. Don't you know that the waters of the Nine Heavens divine world are very deep? The angry old woman stared at Jiangchen, as if she was very confused. Was the person in front of her really a divine king in the past? You also know? Jiangchen asked. Sect Master told me. The angry old woman said. Don't worry, your identity will not be revealed. It is not good for you, and it is also not good for my thorough ground sect. Chapter 841. Those with a high cultivation level could see the heavens. If one could see the heavens, they would be powerful. If one could see the heavens, they would be able to see through illusions and see through some secrets. With Hong Yi's cultivation level, she naturally knew about Jiangchen. Similarly, the half-stepped godly king in the void god world also knew about Jiangchen's identity. However, he didn't know and was only suspicious. However, Jiangchen had a feeling that it wouldn't take long for his identity to be exposed. Granny Qi, can the Absolute Ground sect fight against the Emperor God clan? Jiangchen suddenly asked. This was because Hong Yi was too confident in the void god world. She didn't fear the Emperor God clan at all. As a result, Jiangchen believed that the Absolute Ground sect had a strong foundation. There might even be someone stronger than Hong Yi in the sect. You don't need to know about this, Granny Qi said. If there comes a day when the Absolute Ground sect is really in trouble, you will know about the Absolute Ground sect's foundation. After saying that, Granny Qi told Jiangchen to cultivate properly and left. Jiangchen was quite relieved now. Although he didn't get an accurate answer, from what Granny Qi said, the Absolute Ground sect should be very strong. In the next few days, Jiangchen cultivated the Soul Ascension demonic technique in the morning and the Tiger Soul skill and Heavenly Sacred Scripture in the rest of the time. Until half a month later, on this day, Jiangchen's mind was greatly moved. Waves of fluctuations came from his soul. He hurriedly looked inside and his divine consciousness sank into his soul world. When he saw the scene in his soul world, he was completely moved. Beside his soul, the Emperor's vine had turned into strands of divine light. It was as if it had collapsed and was transforming into Tao. However, the divine light didn't dissipate. Instead, it was changing and pulsating like stars. At the same time, a wisp of obscure aura enveloped the divine light. Upon closer inspection, it was the power derived from cultivating the Soul Ascension demonic technique. Under the influence of this power, the divine light formed by the Emperor's vine slowly gathered. After a long time, the divine light dissipated and a seed fell beside his soul. The seed was very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. Even Jiangchun couldn't control this seed. What's going on? My emperor's vine is gone? It became a seed? Jiangchun was dumbfounded. He came to the side of the seed and used some techniques. However, the seed did not move at all. Could it be that, after cultivating the soul ascension magic technique, he accidentally destroyed the emperor's vine? This is nirvana! The undying bird Dao Hun flapped its wings and said, just like what I did before, turning into a cocoon and undergoing nirvana. Oh? Then, what will the monarch vine transform into? Jiangchun asked curiously. The immortal bird Dao Hun was stunned when he heard that. He was silent for a while, as if he was going through his inherited memories in his mind. A few moments later, the undying bird Dao Hun stared at the emperor's vine and said, do you know the sky-reaching ancient tree? Ancient heavenly tree? Jiangchun whispered. Then, his eyes narrowed and he said, you mean the ancient tree that is as famous as the world tree? Yes. That one. The immortal bird Dao Hun said. Then, it explained the origin of the sky-reaching ancient tree to Jiangchun. According to the information that the immortal bird Dao Hun obtained from its inherited memories after undergoing nirvana a few times, the emperor's vine's ancestor was the sky-reaching ancient tree. There was a rumor that the entire world was like branches and leaves, standing on an invisible ancient tree. This tree was the so-called world tree. However, the world tree was ethereal. Perhaps one could sense the world tree, but no one had seen it before. Perhaps the world tree really existed in a mysterious time and space, in a special place. In this world, there was another tree that was as famous as the world tree, and that was the sky-reaching ancient tree. According to the legends, when the world was first created, the great Tao split into many forces. The world tree was one of them, and the sky-reaching ancient tree was another. The world tree created the world, and the sky-reaching ancient tree created the Tao. However, according to some unreliable rumors, the sky-reaching ancient tree was cut down a long time ago when the first batch of cultivators was born. The sky-reaching ancient tree was known as the number one ancient scripture in the world, and it contained the supreme great Tao. Obtaining the sky-reaching ancient tree was equivalent to obtaining the Tao. That was why many cultivators fought over it, but it was cut down in a battle and then disappeared. Of course, those were unreliable rumors. However, according to the immortal bird Dao Hun's inherited memories, the sky-reaching ancient tree did not disappear. It was a divine tree formed by the Tao of the world. How could it be destroyed? It was said that after the sky-reaching ancient tree disappeared, it merged with the great Tao and turned into a Dao Hun, which was passed down as a Dao Hun. However, no one had ever possessed the sky-reaching ancient tree. The only thing that could be verified was that the sky-reaching ancient tree had indeed existed. Some people also speculated that after the sky-reaching ancient tree was cut down, it degenerated and turned into something unknown. The Emperor is the heavens are the Tao, and the Tao is the root. The root originates from the sky-reaching ancient tree. The immortal bird Dao Hun said softly. Among the many Dao Hun, only the Emperor's vine has the word Emperor. Also, before the Emperor's vine evolved, it was already like an ancient tree. Do you think your Emperor's vine can really evolve into a sky-reaching ancient tree? The immortal bird Dao Hun mumbled. Jiangchun was stunned when he heard that. The sky-reaching ancient tree was the embodiment of the supreme Tao and Tao technique. If the Emperor's vine could evolve into a sky-reaching ancient tree, then wouldn't Jiangchun have mastered the supreme Tao technique? Won't I be invincible if I master the supreme Tao technique? Jiangchun said subconsciously. You wish. The immortal bird Dao Hun poured cold water on him. Even if the Emperor's vine can evolve into a sky-reaching ancient tree, it won't be that easy. Just like me, I had to go through a few nirvanas to become what I am now. However, I'm still a long way from my original form. The immortal bird Dao Hun said. If the Emperor's vine's original form was really a sky-reaching ancient tree, then it would not be able to evolve to that level without at least 8 to 10 nirvanas. Moreover, although the sky-reaching ancient tree was the foundation of Tao techniques, Did you think you could master all Tao techniques just because you mastered the sky-reaching ancient tree? What a joke! Back then, the first batch of cultivators that were born in this world fought for the sky-reaching ancient tree because they wanted to perfect their Tao. As for mastering all Tao techniques, that's not realistic. The immortal bird Tao Hun explained. Everyone is born different, and they have different Tao techniques that suit them. Under normal circumstances, a person can only master one Tao. Furthermore, this type of Tao can never be perfected in one's entire life without special circumstances. That's not bad. Jiangchen said excitedly. If I can master one Tao, I should be invincible in this world, right? Theoretically, yes. The immortal bird Tao Hun said. The key is, whether your emperor's vine is really a sky-reaching ancient tree, and whether it can evolve into a sky-reaching ancient tree is still unknown. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.